To frame and blame someone else. 7. Many thanks. Huang Bei said as she sat again. When she lifted her head to see Xueqie standing, she said, Shui Gongzi, please sit down too. This was originally your seat. She spoke calmly, there was no alienation from her voice that experts usually have. It immediately made Xueqie's heart relax a lot. He slowly sat down excitedly. He would have never thought that he would have the fortune of sitting together with Shi Tiandaran to drink wine. He doesn't know where to put his hand. Under the cloak, the corner of Huang Beiyu's mouth curved. At this moment, the waiter had returned with purple grape wine. She poured a cup for herself. The aroma of the rich purple grape wine seeps out, very intoxicating. Xueqie looked at her. He was a little stunned. It seemed that not all experts drink expensive wine. Shi Tiandaran, one of the best experts in the world, only drinks purple grape wine. Even though purple grape wine is cheap, but using that transparent wine glass as well as it is in the hands of Shi Tiandaran, it gave Alud a feeling of nobility and elegance. It seemed as if she was holding a purple gem in her hand instead. The gaze in his eyes contained reverence towards her. However, Xueqie looked ill at ease, turned his glass of wine. Huang Beiyu slightly took a sip of her wine. As she lifted her head, she saw Xueqie staring at her. It seemed as if he wanted to say something, so she said, Shui Gongzi, do you have something to say? Xueqie blinked, promptly knelt down in front of her. Shi Tiandaran, please take me as your disciple. Huang Beiyu, who was under the cloak, almost laughed out loud. Xueqie, would you kill yourself by banging your head against the pillar outside if you knew that the one you're begging right now is Huang Beiyu? Using a hoarse voice, she responded, I don't accept disciples. Xueqie's face filled with despair. If he's not able to make Shi Tiandaran, this expert, as a master, then he, for his entire life, won't be able to compete against the Crown Prince Zhang Yi. He hated that Zhang Yi is protecting that Huang Beiyu. What he hated, even more, is that he is a crown prince, incomparably respected and set up high in a pedestal. He is also Nanyi country's genius. When he's 16, he's already a 9-star summoner. Set up on high, not in touch with reality, aloof and remote. If he is stronger than Crown Prince Zhang Yi, then his father's ambitious plan would be easily reached. In addition, he won't have any worries as he hacks that Huang Beiyu into thousands of pieces. But Shi Tiandaran also doesn't accept disciples. Huang Beiyu glanced at him, faintly said, I don't accept disciples. But I like to make friends. Xueqie's eyes lit up. To become friends, does Shi Tiandaran meant that they can become friends? Many thanks to Shi Tiandaran. Xueqie was excessively happy that he unexpectedly bowed to her on the ground. Then he stood up and sat on his seat again. How does Shi Tiandaran have time to come here to drink? I came here to the market to look at some medicinal herbs. Huang Beiyu said lightly. Medicinal materials. Xueqie became puzzled. Most summoners don't buy medicinal materials. They only go pill masters to buy pills. It can't be that Shi Tiandaran knows how to refine pills too. It can't be. The power of a 9-star summoner is already extremely scary. If she is also a pill master, doesn't that defy the natural order? So Xueqie carefully asked, may I ask what kind of medicinal herbs that Shi Tiandaran is looking for? I might be able to help. No need. I already found the medicinal herbs. Later I'll go take a look around again to see if there's a better pill furnace. Huang Beiyu drank a sip of purple grape wine, her breath cold. As Xueqie listened to her, her words immediately confirmed the thoughts in his heart. To frame and blame someone else. 8. As Xueqie listened to her, her words immediately confirmed the thoughts in his heart. A refining furnace/pot. even though he couldn't confirm it when she said she's buying medicinal herbs. However, in this mainland, only one profession required a refining pot/furnace. She Tion Darren, do you know how to refine pills? Shueche stammeringly asked. He was so shocked that his brain felt dizzy. Huang Beiyu nodded her head, in a low-key manner said, I know a little. Shueche swallowed his saliva, his gaze towards her became worship. It really is people angering people to death. Other people have to walk 8 generations to become a summoner, but a pill master. No one dares to even dream about it. This strength and talent make people envy. This kind of talent, Ongwa Gong must pull her in. In the future, if they want to do big things, they would need to rely on these experts. The current Ongwa Gong's prefecture doesn't have a pill master. Even if it's a low-grade pill master in the mainland, it is very hard to find. If they have a pill master, their power will increase greatly. The profession of a pill master, in the Cardi mainland, you can see but you can't request. They are rare. And those pill masters/alchemists are very low-key. They like to live in seclusion, both aloof from politics and material pursuits. Yet they are still very rich. No matter how others invite them, they won't come. Now that Shueche met one, he had secretly made up his mind. No matter, he needs to pull Tion Darren to his side. Since Tion Darren needs a refining pot, isn't that easy then? Their Ongwa Gong's prefecture, other things don't say, but the treasure of their prefecture, the lotus flame furnace, to a pharmacist, it is extremely enticing. If you're looking for a refining pot, my Ongwa Gong's prefecture have a few good ones if Tion Darren doesn't mind. How can I? The private possessions at your house, it would be bad for an outsider to see. Huang Beiyu said as her lip curved into a smile. What's the matter? In our prefecture, we don't have pharmacists. Those refining pots are just collected by my father. My father often said, no matter how precious it is, there needs to be someone to match it. Shueche said with reassurance. A drunken red face, swaying around, she doesn't know why, but it's funny. Huang Beiyu put down her glass, said, Ongwa Gong is a really righteous person. I would really like to pay my respect to him. Shueche said with joy, I wouldn't dare. If Tion Darren would like to visit our prefecture, my father would be really happy. Just as he finished speaking, Shueche's happy face suddenly became dark. What happened? Huang Beiyu knew what was wrong but she still asked. Shueche punched the table with his fist. With hatred, he said, Huang Beiyu. He snorted quietly as Huang Beiyu raised her eyebrows. She sneered at him in her heart. Calling my name is of no use. Who told you to be unlucky and provoked me? The things that happened today in Lingyang College, I don't know if Tion Darren had heard of. That Huang Beiyu has a poisonous heart. She made my sister die tragically. My father is old and broken-hearted. Right now, he's sick in bed. I'm afraid that he can't personally entertain you. Huang Beiyu coldly said, if she killed someone, isn't it natural that she pays with her own life? Shueche said with hatred, that is exactly Huang Beiyu's crafty plan. She had planned to lead my sister up the arena. As a result, what is even more hateful is that the crown prince protected her. I can't take revenge. Huang Beiyu already knew that Shueche would make things up as well as add oil and vinegar to the story in order to get sympathy. To frame and blame someone else. 9. Huang Beiyu already knew that Shueche would make things up as well as add oil and vinegar to the story in order to get sympathy. Therefore she smiled slightly and said, to put bluntly, this Huang Beiyu is really hateful. Humph. This revenge, I'll remember it. I'll never let her get away with it. Shueche said with an ominous glint in his eyes. For a nobleman, even if the revenge takes 10 years, it's still not too late. Gongzi, it's best if you take your time to make your decision. To take one's time making a decision, to consider at length. When Xueche heard those words, he knew that Shi Tiandaren is on his side. His self-esteem immediately got satisfied. Cupping his hand, he said, Shi Tiandaren is highly principled. I admire people like you. Huang Beiyu freely waved her hand. Shui Gongzi is overpraising. After talking a little more, Xueche already considered Shi Tiandaren as a confidant. He admires her strength a lot as well as her approachable personality. If they're an expert, there won't be any that aren't arrogant. Other 9-star summoners would simply feel that those lower-level summoners are beneath their dignity. They would never go drinking with a low-level summoner. For instance, that Crown Prince Zhan Yi, he's proud and arrogant. He disdains everyone else. The two people sat in the liquor store for a while. Then Xueche took Huang Beiyu to Anguagong's prefecture to see the Flame Lotus Furnace. The two people walked out of Buji Air Market. Xueche ordered people to bring some horses. The two people rode the horse parallel to each other. Even though that Xueche is drunk, his mind is still a little clear. On their way to Anguagong's prefecture, Xueche introduced each and every street to her. Talking and laughing, the two of them made their way to the prefecture. When they walked up to the intersection, directly in front of them were a group of cavalry. The entire cavalry wore black armor. They also wore a black iron mask that covered their face with a long sword on their waist as they rode their black horses. The atmosphere around them is cold. The youngster in front of the group wore an exquisite black robe. His face is handsome, but he is cold and unfeeling. The cavalry in black passed by, the pedestrian all one cleared out a path for them. Within this cavalry, they're all above silver rank experts. They're responsible for the safety of the imperial capital. They're in charge of protecting the emperor and the imperial capital. Xueche quietly snorted and urged his horse to let them pass. Huang Beiyu lifted her head. She stared at the youngster in a black robe. That youngster had a constant cold expression on his face. His long and narrow eyes indifferently swept across her, and then he glanced at Xueche. The famous Shi Tiandaren in the imperial capital is with Anguagong's eldest son together. It's impossible to not think about it. Anguagong's prefecture held a large amount of power. At the present, Anguagong has an ambitious heart. The emperor clearly knows this. Zhan Yi only faintly glanced at him and then left. His heart must have already had some thoughts. It's only that this cold and indifferent teenager always hid his feelings. Even if he had some thoughts, he won't express it on his face. But it could also mean that he is respecting her decision. She is a free person. She doesn't belong to any power. Whichever group of people she joins, no one can control her. Everyone is their own master. Huang Beiyu felt a slight headache. She wants to exploit Xueche. However, she doesn't want to make it seem like she had actually joined Anguagong's prefecture even though it's fake. If a 9-star summoner joined Anguagong's prefecture, their power would greatly increase. Those experts who are on the sidelines would most likely join too. She doesn't have such a good heart, helping them be a live advertisement and recruit experts for them. But at this moment, there are too many people. It would be too inconvenient to talk to Zhan Yi. Therefore, Huang Beiyu indifferently urged her horse to go beside Xueche. When Xueche saw her move next to him, don't even talk about how happy he was. He already saw this action as that Shi Tiandaren already agreed to join their Anguagong's prefecture. To frame and blame someone else. 10. The Crown Prince Zhan Yi was arrogant. In the name of genius, he couldn't tolerate anyone smarter than him. Seeing that the black cavalry had slowly gone away, Xueche had actually dared to say that. He needed to make the impression Shi Tian's impression of the Crown Prince ugly. That way Shi Tian would join them. Plus the Crown Prince Shan Yu really did not put anyone in his eyes. He's always arrogant and cold. Who would like him? Huang Beiyu listened quietly. She knew what Xueche thought and saw through his plan. She just didn't reject it is all. She didn't speak, which meant that she agreed. In Xueche's heart, he was very happy. Anguagong's prefecture. The sudden death of the elder young miss led the entire Anguagong Fu to be in a gloomy tone. Everyone knew that Anguagong adored the eldest young miss, who had an extremely high talent in martial arts. Xuemeng also knew how to please people. Anguagong practically treated her like a pearl in his palm. Once Xuemeng had died, Anguagong was so heartbroken to the extent where he became sick. The wife of Anguagong had also been sick after being too angry. The eldest young master had gone out to drink in hopes to lessen the pain. In the entire Anguagong Fu, only the housekeepers and a few young masters who helped to sort out business within the prefecture. The inner business of the prefecture was taken care of by the concubines. The only color in Anguagong's prefecture was white. All the other colors were placed away. The first glance at it was dark and gloomy. The morning hall was set in the back hall so it didn't affect the front yard. The housekeeper who saw that Xueche who was back immediately walked up to him and exclaimed, "Eldest young master, you're back." Xueche raised his hand and responded, "I have important guests. If there's something, tell me later." As soon as he was done, he guided Huang Beiyu who wore a strange black cloak into the backyard. While walking, he talked to the housekeeper, "Where's father? Call father. Tell him that Shi Tian Darren is here." The housekeeper peered at Huang Beiyu and thought that the black cloak revealed a strange type of feeling he didn't understand. It led people to shiver. He didn't dare to look. He immediately left. Inside the study room of Anguagong Fu, there were countless treasures. Each one beautiful and dazzling which made people speechless. All these treasures were placed in common and obvious places. It can be seen that Anguagong was confident in the protection of the prefecture. Huang Beiyu wasn't interested in any of the treasures. She just peered around randomly and pretended to be looking at a painting. After a while, loud laughter had come out from the study room. Huang Beiyu placed her hands behind her back and turned around to see Anguagong walked in. He walked in with that fat and chubby body which jiggled as he walked. When he laughed, the 5 sense organs were all squished together and couldn't be seen. His eyes had formed a crack. She wondered if he could see her. The arrival of Shi Tian Darren had brought light into our cold home. Huang Beiyu faintly smiled. Anguagong's prefecture contains countless precious treasures. It's already shining with gold. How could it be considered as cold home? Her words were casual and easy, adding a sense of warmth which led Anguagong, who had just lost his favorite daughter, to laugh again. Even though he lost his favorite daughter, he had many other daughters and sons. Knowing this, he isn't that sad. Now gaining the help of Shi Tian Darren is the most important task. Father, Shi Tian Darren is also a refining pharmacist. Xueche chuckled. Both father and son had laughed so brilliantly. This led Huang Beiyu to be a little suspicious of whether or not she had killed the wrong person on the arena. Could it happen to be that Xuemeng isn't the real daughter of Anguagong? How come she couldn't see how sad he was? Oh. Anguagong's eyes that were squished together widened a bit. To frame and blame someone else. 11. Shi Tian Darren is very talented. You're flattering me. I just know a little bit. The modest Huang Beiyu replied. The refining pills in this era, she hadn't observed to the maximum extent yet. So she was saying the truth when she said she just knew a little bit. Angua Gong just took this as a master trying to be modest. They had personally witnessed Shi Tian's strength, so they couldn't be wrong. The techniques of refining pills are really hard to understand. Even knowing just a little bit is very amazing. Both father and son exchanged a look. For many years they had been working together like villains, so they knew what to do next. Angua Gong walked to a column of paintings, and it wasn't certain where he touched, but the wall which contained the paintings had separated into two and revealed a huge space. Xueche lit a lantern and held it, leading the way. He said to Huang Beiyu, "Shi Tian Darren, inside is where Angua Gong's prefecture's precious medicine furnace is held. Please come in and take a look." Under the light of Huang Beiyu's cloak, she observed this secret door. That Angua Gong is too fat, his huge body had blocked everything. Her figure was small, so she really wasn't able to see what move he did on the door. But it was enough since she knew where the door is. She followed behind Xueche and walked in the door. In the beginning, the road was narrow, the terrain tilted downwards. After walking for a while, the road became wide and clear. The inside was probably hollowed out and built for the purpose of keeping treasures. Angua Gong, father and son must be confident in their protection system to bring her down here. The fact that they dared to bring her in and wanted to please her. Inside the treasure room, the walls were all hollowed out into grids where the countless treasures were kept. In the middle of the white jade table, the light blue spirits slowly floated around. The white jade table had flowing water, and the shallow water emitted a little bit of golden light. Angua Gong chuckled and turned around to one side of the wall and brought out a refining pot made from zijin. The refining pot was counted as one of the best. Zijin itself was a rare material to obtain. In the market, a small zijin rock could be sold up to the price of 10 million. This refining pot is called Purple Gold Furnace. It was made with 66 zijin rocks, and it's rarely seen. This lord felt familiar with Shi Tian Darren from the first sight. Plus last time Darren had tamed the red spider for Che. This purple gold furnace is a gift from this lord to Shi Tian Darren. Purple gold furnace, that is a very costly refining pot. Made from 66 zijin rocks, just the materials, the cost is already pricey. That doesn't even count the difficulty of refining this refining pot. This Angua Gong is willing to part with his hard savings. This Darren will accept this costly present. This Darren will definitely repay Angua Gong in the future. Huang Beiyu smiled faintly and took it over. She looked at it carefully and her hands itched. Using this refining pot to refine pills, it probably won't explode like last time. Yen, in her heart, suddenly exclaimed, "This refining pot is pretty good. But compared to the Lotus Flame Furnace, this one isn't even worth it. Let's do this slowly. That Lotus Flame Furnace, I will definitely get." Angua Gong, the father and son, saw that she easily accepted the purple gold furnace and sighed in relief in their hearts. To frame and blame someone else. 12. Generally, a high-ranked summoner isn't just strong. Their long-accumulated wealth isn't a small number. So it would be difficult to bribe them. In this world, people who can be bribed with money is the easiest to deal with. What he is afraid of are people who don't have any interest in money. Angua Gong laughed and said, "Shi Tian Darren is a straightforward person." Huang Beiyu said, "I just like to make friends." Yes, yes. Make friends. Angua Gong understood the meaning and began to feel relieved. After Huang Beiyu finished looking at Purple Gold Furnace, she suddenly lifted her head and said, "I heard that Angua Gong's prefecture has a prized furnace. I wonder if I could see it." That Lotus Flame Furnace is Angua Gong's prefecture's most prized treasure. It's a rarely seen device in this world. Everyone in the world knew that, so they all wanted to see what the Lotus Flame Furnace looked like. Angua Gong is immensely proud of himself due to the fact that he has the Lotus Flame Furnace, so he kept its mysterious hidden. He would occasionally reveal some facts regarding the furnace from time to time to make people envy him. If other people had said that they want to see, it's not a guarantee that he'll take it out. But since it's Shi Tian Darren who wants to see it, then it's easy. If they're able to pull Shi Tian to their side, it's not just gaining a 9-star summoner. They would also a pharmacist. At the moment, Angua Gong didn't reject. Very straightforward, he said, since Shi Tian Darren wants to see it, then I won't deny you. He walked to the front of the white jade table, his fat hand reached into the flowing water. He slowly pressed down, a bright but not dazzling ray of light slowly ascended. The way Angua Gong's hands moved, she saw it clearly and memorized it in her heart. The golden light broke out of the water, immediately a furnace as big as a watermelon slowly appeared. That furnace is full of golden light, the rays of light glittered. On the upper body of the golden furnace, black-colored clouds formed big beautiful lotuses. The lotuses were all in blooming position. With one glance it seemed that the lotus would bloom any moment now, really lifelike. Even Huang Beiyu, who had seen countless treasures, couldn't help but suck in a breath. That furnace and a regular furnace is different. This furnace is the best of the best. It could be said that the furnace is what a celestial would have used to refine pills. The furnace also gave off a celestial aroma. Huang Beiyu's heart jumped. Like how a heart would beat, she felt the black jade inside her clothes moved. That's it, Yen whispered. After so many years, I finally saw it again. Lotus Flame Furnace. You saw it before? Huang Beiyu asked Yen as she stood still without moving. Humph, Yen quietly snorted. This is the best treasure that person had made. In this world, devices with the same level as this furnace won't surpass 3. Huang Beiyu was a little surprised. Yen said, with your ability, it won't be hard to bring the Lotus Flame Furnace away. Of course. But right now I don't want to take it away yet. Under the black cloak, Huang Beiyu's eyes flashed a trace of a scheme. Sure enough, it's a treasure. Huang Beiyu calmly and confidently said as she stood in a distance from the white jade table. She doesn't get closer to have a closer look. This made Angua Gong felt a lot more relaxed. After all, any expert that had seen this kind of precious treasure would be tempted. Shi Tian's ability is so strong if she's tempted to take it. No one could stop her. To frame and blame someone else. 13. Angua Gong turned around and exclaimed, that Lotus Flame Furnace is indeed a precious device. If it was used to refine the marrow cleansing pill, the success rate would be higher than a normal refining pot. Humph, what does this obese person know? If it was the person from before and they used the Lotus Fire Furnace to refine marrow cleansing pill, it will most definitely succeed. Nightmare explained in disdain. Huang Beiyu was stunned. There's a 100% of refining marrow cleansing pill. Is that person that strong? Does the Lotus Fire Furnace mark its owners? Huang Beiyu said. If it's a precious device that marked its owners, it might be a little tricky. It marked its owners through its blood. Unless the owner is dead, otherwise wherever the device is, the owner is able to feel it. Besides that, only the owner is able to use the device. Angua Gong chuckled so hard that his chubby fat began jiggling up and down. If they aren't a refining pharmacist, they aren't able to claim ownership over the refining pot. Our family has never had a refining pharmacist. He was thinking in his heart that if Shi Tian was on his side, it wouldn't matter if she ended up using the Lotus Flame Furnace. With this precious device, plus Shi Tian's status as a 9-star summoner and refining pharmacist, Angua Gong's prefecture will be stronger. After hearing that the device hadn't been claimed by anyone, Shi Tian felt a little better. Looking at that bright furnace, she asked, if it hadn't been claimed, what happens if it was robbed? Ha! Shueche burst into laughter before explaining, Darren, don't worry. In this secret rooms, there are a lot of tricks. Even if they were a 9-star summoner, they might not even be able to break in. Even if they made it in, the water on the white jade table is restricted by qi. It only marked my father's breath. So that's how it is. In her heart, Huang Beiyu quietly pondered over the information. This is like a modern secret room with passwords, however this is much weaker when compared to the modern high-tech equipment. That's best. Huang Beiyu nodded her head and took another look at the lotus flame furnace, then continued, today I have really opened my eyes. Thank you, Angua Gong. Angua Gong placed the lotus flame furnace away and wiped his hand clean from water. It's not every day that Shi Tian, Darren and I are able to talk like this. I have already ordered the servants to prepare dishes and wine. Let's go to the living room and talk a bit more. Thank you. Huang Beiyu coldly smiled. If she wanted to steal this obese person's belongings, she needed to pretend to enjoy his company. She had drunk a couple glasses of wine. Huang Beiyu is usually cold and indifferent, but she has great patience when listening to other people talk. Whatever the father and son united together and said, Huang Beiyu was able to respond back. Angua Gong was more satisfied with Shi Tian, and seeing that she is so sincere, Angua Gong's heart is happy. When the day darkened, Angua Gong Fu was still doing a funeral. Therefore Huang Beiyu had left. On the road, in her heart, she had planned out how to steal the lotus flame furnace. However, it's not enough to just steal it out. She's going to do something else also. Wasn't the Shao family afraid of offending Angua Gong's prefecture? Weren't they trying to send gifts to them to show that they had no relation to her? Well, she will let the grudge between the two families grow deeper. To frame and blame someone else. 14. Going back to Flowing Clouds Pavilion, Huang Beiyu took out the clothes that were made in the clothing store. She had got it back 2 days ago and hadn't taken a look at it yet. These clothes were made exquisitely. The black cloth material, its top was embroidered with dark flowers, according to the drawing she gave to them. It fit really well with her, and when she wore it, it wasn't too handsome. Dong Ling's eyes were straight from looking at it, asking surprisingly, young miss, which country's clothes are these? How come I have never seen them before? It's a country far away from here. Huang Beiyu randomly said. She didn't want to explain to Dong Ling something she won't understand. She arranged the clothes and asked, did you prepare the things I asked you to? It's all good. Dong Ling immediately turned around to the drawers and pulled out a small cloth bag, opened it. This is the eldest young master's jade pendant. I heard he always had it and it never leaves his side. Huang Beiyu blinked her eyes and picked up the jade pendant. When she came back from Lingyang College, she told Dong Ling to find Xiao Zhongqi or Xiao Yuan Cheng's belongings over here. Who knew that Dong Ling had such remarkable powers and obtained Xiao Zhongqi's personal jade pendant? How did you get this? Xiao Zhongqi's strength wasn't that low either. After all, he is one of the Imperial Silver Warriors. Dong Ling's face turned red, and slowly spat out, I had just gone to the garden when I saw the eldest young master teasing concubine Shue's maids. Clothes. The jade pendant fell onto the grass, so I picked it up. After all, Dong Ling was still young, so it was awkward when she saw what happened between the opposite genders. It made her even shyer when she spoke of it. She lowered her head, her face red as a tomato. Huang Beiyu, on the other hand, didn't have much reaction to it. In the 21st century, she had seen these things happen often. She could have seen the whole process without even blinking, not to mention having her face turn red. She placed the jade pendant away, nodding. This time, the Shao is definitely going to suffer. After she finished, she sneaked out. Dong Ling looked her disappearing figure worriedly. Every time young Miss sneaked out, she always worried. Even though based on young Miss's strength she didn't need to worry, but what happened if she met someone stronger than her? In the dark night with thick fog, there was not a single star out there. A small figure snuck out from Princess Zhonggong's prefecture. On the street, she was like a ghost. She was fast and neat. The delicate black robes fluttered under the night and the strange chilling atmosphere led people to shiver. Between several ups and downs, she had arrived in front of Ongwagong's prefecture. She was so agile that she didn't even startle the cat in the yard. The light in the study room was on and she silently moved closer. In a corner, she heard noises coming out from the window. Congratulations, Father, for gaining another master. It will be just around the corner when Father will be able to sit on the throne. Xue Chei's distinct arrogant voice laughed. Ongwagong also laughed. Who would have known that Shi Tian had joined our side so quickly? Even the heavens had blessed us all. Father, with Shi Tian's help, how about I get rid of that crown prince? Xue Chei hissed. Ongwagong's eyes flashed over. Humph. He dared to protect your sister's killer, of course, we won't let him go. But Shi Tian had just joined our side. It's too early to let Shi Tian go against the crown prince right now. Father is right. I haven't planned it out. Xue Chei clenched his jaw. But Meng Er can't die for no reason. That Huang Beiyu, I will kill her. To frame and blame someone else. 15. Ongwagong nodded his head and narrowed his sly eyes. Last time, we sent Shweta out but he hadn't returned for so many days. He's probably spending his money drunk at a brothel. Useless thing. Xue Chei shrunk his neck, hatefully added on, that useless thing. When I catch him, I will give him a nice beating. He wanted Huang Beiyu to pay the price of insulting him. Therefore, he had sent Shweta, who had pretty good skills but sinister enough to taint that girl then kill her after. Who knew, after all these days, there was no news from Shweta. Humph. Send a reliable person this time. That girl doesn't know anything. It's time to give her some lessons. Send some more people. Make sure not to leave any evidence. If she dies in Princess Zhang's prefecture, it won't be our fault. I understand, Father. The day's getting dark. Today, you've been too gloomy. It's better if you go back and rest. Xue Chei tried to convince his father. Even though he didn't show anything on the surface, but Father adores Meng Er. How could Father not be upset when Meng Er died? Ongwagong sighed. My poor Meng Er. Ah. Father, don't be upset. I will avenge Meng Er. The door to the study room opened and Xue Chei helped Ongwagong out before locking the door and leaving. Huang Beiyu came out from a dark corner. The ghostly figure, the black clothes, the entire person integrated into the night. She fiddled with the lock on the door and shook her head before pulling out a wire. Drumming it twice, the door opened. She quietly walked in and closed the door. Based on today memories, she didn't even need to open the lights. She could walk in the dark freely. Any subtle arrangement was memorized in her mind. She didn't need to look at it with her eyes, it was as though everything was displayed in front of her. She stood where Ongwagong had stood and quickly calculated the width of his obese body in his mind and the arc of his arm which he had lifted. She moved her feet and hand to the number of steps accordingly. No, not on the wall. A flash of light went through her mind and her toes pointed twice on the floor. This position is correct. But after a long time, it still didn't respond. She calmed down and thought about it. Her feet harshly stepped onto the floor. The sound of the wall turning met in her ears. Huang Beiyu tilted her lips. Angua Gong is as sneaky as a fox. He even calculated her in. Normal people would have thought that the button would be on the wall. They would have thought he pressed someplace so their attention would be on the upper part of his body. No one knew the real button was actually designed under his feet. Normal people who stepped on the floor would have no response. Even a strong man would probably have no response. However, Angua Gong is a fat person who weighed a couple 100 pounds. The strength of him stepping down would be different from others. This was design is smart, she had to say so. But when they met Huang Beiyu, what good is being smart? She is a super high IQ genius. The observational strength of training she had taken from a young age made her 100 times stronger than normal people. Any subtle movements can't escape her eyes. She took out a luminous stone. This is a type of stone that shined like moonlight in the night. The price isn't expensive, but it was a popular tool. The long passage of the secret room was filled with tricks. Stepping on it triggers the button. However, when Angua Gong came in, he most likely had closed the tricks. That's why they were able to walk in safely. To frame and blame someone else, 16, however, she decided not to close the tricks. If she used her skills, it might not seem like this was done by Xiao Zhongqi, the dumb person. Thinking about it, the figure of Huang Beiyu had swiftly swept in like lightning. The flexible body like a civet, and she had finished half the passage already. At this time, the tricks that had been touched had just started working. The traps on the ground shot out swords. A huge stone fell from the top and a stone door blocked the entry in the front. All the tricks had a strong chi in front of it. As long as someone touched it a little, they won't hold on for long. However, about what Xueche had said that even 9-star summoners aren't able to break in, that was wrong. As long as they were agile and knew where the tricks were, it shouldn't be hard. Even the modern high-tech tricks can't stop her, let alone these tricks that were left back already. Too slow. She softly whistled. She had safely passed the passage filled with tricks, she now in the treasure room. The treasure room contained countless unique treasures of all sizes and colors. Even without the luminous stone, she could see clearly. The fluorescent light flowed around the white jade table. The faint glow from the clear water slowly floated up, reflecting her bright eyes. Huang Beiyu smiled. She took a couple strands of hair out from the space ring. She held onto it with her fingers and dropped it into the flowing water. Today she had drunk so much wine with that old guy Angua Gong for a reason. She had gotten many of his hairs without anyone knowing. Fortunately, Xueche had said that this white jade table needed Angua Gong's chi in order to open. Otherwise, if she came in all of a sudden, she could only use violence open it. This white jade table was like a modern high-tech fingerprint or eye print. It was much easier to check the chi. Especially with fat people, their chi is the easiest to be exposed. She looked satisfied as the radiant glow of the water flashed and then the surface of the water slowly unscrewed. Gradually something rose from the bottom of the water. There's someplace that is wrong. The keen Huang Beiyu immediately felt suspicious. When the lotus flame furnace came out, wasn't there supposed to be a faint golden light? She had seen it really clear today. The smile on her lips slowly diminished. The faint radiance of the water reflected her gloomy face. A small jade box gradually rose up the water, but there was nothing inside. The first thought that passed her mind was, she was cheated by the old fox. However, as she continued to think, there was something wrong about it. Angua Gong was sneaky, but he was confident about the traps in the treasure room. He would never have moved the lotus flame furnace. When she came in, the tricks that she met were a bit too simple. Just for a moment, her brain flashed over countless messages. Huang Bei harshly slammed her fist down on the white jade table. Someone had gotten to here first. Who was the person who thought to steal the item the same day as her? Plus their methods were smart. As she was thinking, the quiet treasure room suddenly echoed a laugh. Very smart. Huang Bei looked over and her action reacted faster than her brain. As soon as she turned around, she threw herself at the sound in the dark corner. The black clothes flashed in the dark. At the entrance, they turned around and the face's smile was one of a devil. To frame and blame someone else, 17. First come first serve, you want to steal it from me? Under the radiance of the precious treasures in the room, that evildoer's personality and aggressiveness compared with his usual gentle and scholarly manner are completely different. Feng Lian. The things I want, you can't steal it away from me. Huang Bei was angry and her eyes were ice cold. This person knew too much of her secrets. Leaving him alive will eventually be trouble for her. Feng Lian faintly smiled, his eyes sparkled and stared at her, then, come to get it from me. As he finished saying that, his body shape flashed. He had rapidly left the room and Huang Bei snorted but didn't hesitate to catch up to him. Both people's speeds were really fast. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had arrived outside the secret room. In the dark study, based on their keen senses, the two of them had quickly made 2 moves against each other. Huang Bei felt pain from her hand because after all the body of a 12-year-old is still weak. The strength for close combat isn't enough. The opponent obviously knew this weakness. After a couple moves, he had the upper hand in the battle. His skills are absolutely comparable to her. But if it was the real her, he might not even have the upper hand. Huang Bei secretly hated this person. For a nobleman to take revenge, 10 years isn't too long. When she is strong enough, he will suffer. Boom! Huang Bei's feet kicked at his waist but she was shocked by his steady strength and stepped back a couple steps. Meanwhile, his hand grabbed her shoulder. With a spin, he came behind her. You're so young. Do you want to win me? Maybe when you grow up. Humph. Huang Bei laughed coldly. The 9th prince of Beiyao country is really hidden expert. Be careful, if you wear masks for too long, it will rot on your face. We're both the same. Feng Lian's eyes revealed a sneaky expression. This girl led him to be surprised. This type of skills, in Nanny country, it'll definitely one of the tops. However, she is just lacking strength. After all, she's too young. If it wasn't due to this, he might have really lost to her. Huang Bei's eyes suddenly flashed and the corner of her mouth rose slightly. She suddenly raised her head and her elbow went up. Feng Lian was shocked and turned his head around. But Huang Bei's other hand quickly swatted over, giving his chest a hard slap. He responded with the same speed and he moved back, not letting her hit him. However, the next series of harsh and cruel close-fighting moves led him to be caught off guard for a moment since he had never seen those moves before. Feng Lian continued backing up and defending himself. In his heart at the same time, he couldn't stop himself from being surprised. Her moves are really strong. Compared to the previous moves, the speed increased by more than 2 folds. It no longer was limited to strength. It was countered by speed which led him to not be able to respond. Hand it over. The last heavy punch landed on his shoulder. Huang Bei pinched him on the shoulder just like how he had done so before. She flashed over to his back and there was a dagger now placed by his waist side. Competition for who's crueler. Who can beat her? Competition of who's quicker. Again, who can beat her? Even when she is facing stronger enemies, she is able to make herself invincible. This is the scariest part of the ultimate weapon. Feng Lian-yi raised his hand and sighed, very good. Stop talking nonsense. Well, since you have one, I will give it to you. Feng Lian-yi smiled helplessly. An idea flashed in his head and he took out a box from the space ring and threw it backward. Huang Bei-yu reached over and grabbed the box. She opened it. There was no lotus flame furnace. Just a normal fist-sized pearl with a purple glow. To frame and blame someone else, 18, you dare to deceive me. Huang Bei-yu became furious. Feng Lian-yi had already lightly evaded her dagger, smiling as he said, I'm just gifting you a present for our meeting. As he had said that, he already used lightning speed to flip out from the study room's window. Huang Bei-yu narrowed her eyes. He actually dared to play with her. Then she will absolutely not let him have an easy time. Someone come on. There is a thief. She screamed. Feng Lian-yi, who had just come out of the study room, was stunned. He bitterly smiled, that little girl is really. After Huang Bei-yu's shout, the guards in Anguagong's prefecture were immediately alarmed. The expert who was closest immediately rushed over. Just on time to exchange blows with Feng Lian-yi. Feng Lian-yi's pupils darkened, his murderous aura flashed. The expert which had rushed over here could only exchange a single blow with Feng Lian-yi and was killed quickly. Then his figure flashed, disappearing into the night. Huang Bei-yu ran to the window to have a look. Her heart was surprised. If he had been this cruel when he had fought her, she would have never gained the upper hand. Outside the study room, the guards all immediately gathered together. Inside Anguagong's prefecture, lights were abruptly lit. All the people had rushed over. Huang Bei-yu randomly dropped Xiao Zhongqi's jade pendant on the ground. She jumped out the window and disappeared like a ghost. What happened? On the other side, Anguagong was wearing a black fox fur coat which made him seem even more obese. With the help of the guards, he hurriedly rushed over. He saw that the door of the study room was opened, his heart jumped. He immediately walked into the study room. The guards had already lit up the lights. The door to the secret passage was opened widely. Anguagong screamed and rushed into the secret passage. Through the passage, there was evidence of the traps being touched. But there was no trace that someone was hurt. Anguagong's heart was chaotic. Big beads of sweat already formed on his forehead. His fat body was shaking. Inside the treasure room, he saw that the white jade platform was empty. My lotus flame furnace ah! Anguagong let out a blood-curdling scream. Everything in front of him became black as he fell backward. Father! Xueqie followed behind. He immediately came up to help him up. However, Anguagong's body was too big. His fat body had overwhelmed Xueqie as they both fell onto the floor. The father and son fell upside down, both battered and exhausted. The guards who rushed up promptly helped them up. Quick! Quickly go chase that thief. Xueqie fell, but he was still awake and immediately commanded them. We already are chasing after the thief. Steward Qian said. Eldest young master, should I check to see if there's anything else missing? Go. Check to see if anything else is missing. Xueqie's hand trembled. He saw that the white jade platform was empty. Their most prized treasure. It was the treasure that made Anguagong's prefecture rise to fame. Their lotus flame furnace from the Mengzhen mainland was stolen. Cold sweat formed at his forehead. Their most prized treasure was stolen. In the future, Anguagong's prefecture won't be able to take out a device like the lotus flame furnace to completely shock every family on the mainland. Steward Qian immediately went to check on the treasures. Anguagong groaned as he woke up with trembling lips. He said, Che ah, quickly go see if the lotus flame furnace is still there. Shueche's face was painful and distorted. In order to check, he got up and walked to the white jade platform and looked at it. On the elevated white jade, there was nothing. The white jade platform was also empty. Even the water that released rays of light was gone. Because the water lost the moisture of the treasure, it had become plain regular drinking water. Was originally in the rocks, the chi around it was still present, the light blue chi still circulates around them. However, the lotus flame furnace is really gone. To frame and blame someone else, 19, with a miserable scowl on his face, he roared and shouted on the white jade platform. He beat the white jade platform with his fist harshly. This damned thief! Damn it! Gong's old eyes once again turned over. His fat body was no longer able to get up. Sitting on the floor, he was a mountain of flesh. Like Shueche, he howled in grief. Catch that thief! I will definitely chop him into 8 pieces. My lord, the water pearl is also gone. Steward Qian said as he walked over. The water pearl, the pearl that Feng Lian Yi gift Huang Bei Yu for their meeting. The pearl allows the user to breathe underwater. What? Gong shouted. He closed both his eyes, wanting to faint again. His fish beat the ground, evil thief. Shueche resentfully said, I will personally go chase that thief. As he said that, he took large strides out. Just at the right time to collide with someone who was rushing in to report the situation. Shueche roared, You blind thing! That guard was so scared that he immediately knelt down on the ground immediately and kowtowed, Eldest young master, please spare my life. Eldest young master, please spare my life. This small one found something on the outside. It could be what the thief had dropped. To kowtow, traditional greeting, ESP to a superior, involving kneeling and pressing one's forehead to the ground, what thing? Gong said as he climbed up from the floor. His short hands and short legs were very comical. Shueche also hurriedly asked, quickly take it out. The guard was so scared that with trembling hands, he immediately held something. An emerald jade pendant. The emperor green was grandeur and noble. The watercolor of the pendant was transparent. Just with one glance, you can tell it's an ordinary item. Shueche looked at it and suddenly yelled, I recognize this thing. Gong looked towards him. With a fierce expression, Shueche said, his mother. Xiao Zhongqi. Your father didn't go provoke you. You actually dare to provoke me up to my head. His mother is like the literal translation of the F word. Xiao Zhongqi. Gong's expression changed, anger immediately bubbled up. The people from the Xiao family are good. Shueche said, Father, I am definitely not wrong. This jade pendant is what that Xiao Zhongqi wears it every day. It never leaves his body. No one else would be able to take it. Gong blinked his 2 eyes, a ray of severeness flashed by his eyes, good. With evidence here, how can he deny it? If the Xiao family doesn't return my lotus flame furnace, I will even exterminate Xiao Qiyuan. Huang Bei Yu came out of Gong's prefecture. As she heard the commotions, she coldly sneered in her heart. Yen unhappily said, Before, if you had let the Isolon spirit bird out, how can that Feng Lian be your opponent? Then the lotus flame furnace would be in your hand already. Huang Bei Yu said, If I had let ice out, then my plan on shifting the blame for this incident on Xiao Zhongqi then won't be carried out. I don't want the people from the Xiao family to live too smooth and steady. Humph. Yen disdained her reasoning. To him, obtaining the lotus flame furnace is more important than anything. As for the people from the Xiao family, those insignificant things, just kill them. In addition, even though I have a spirit beast, it doesn't mean that Feng Lianyi doesn't have one. Huang Beiyue said in a low voice. She can't help but feel that Feng Lianyi isn't as simple as he seemed. She had this kind of feeling ever since the first time she met him in Princess Zhang's prefecture. Seeing him today in Anghua Gong's prefecture, she is sure of her feelings now. In front of people, that Feng Lianyi is the same as her. He wore a mask. Yen slowly said, "Are you giving up on the lotus flame furnace?" Huang Beiyue coldly laughed, "The thing is in his hand. But sooner or later I'll get it back." To frame and blame someone else, 20. Although Yen was sealed in the forbidden black water prison, he was still able to see clearly what had happened in the outside world. This seemed to be a water pearl. Yen stopped and continued, "It's right. It really is water pearl. Humph. This compensates for our loss. Although we don't have the lotus flame furnace, this water pearl is also one of heaven and earth's precious treasures. Water pearl. With this water pearl, it's not a difficult task to go to the depth of the sea." Huang Beiyue thought for a moment then laughed, "The pressure at the bottom of the sea is huge. If people go down there, they will be pressed into pieces." "Humph, you don't understand this. Although this water pearl isn't a weapon, as long as it is water, it will move out of the way. Walking at the bottom of the sea would be like walking on the plain ground." "Well, this sounds amazing. When we have time, we should try this out." Huang Beiyue looked at the pearl and placed it away. She then sneaked back to Flowing Cloud Pavilion. After she had come out from changing her clothes, Dongling had run over exclaiming, "Young miss, something's wrong. Anghua Gong Fu's people had surrounded our prefecture." Huang Beiyue calmly drank her tea and nodded, "They're pretty quick." Dongling saw how she acted naturally as though she knew everything. She curiously asked, "Young miss, what happened?" Huang Beiyue hooked her finger and told Dongling to move her head over. She then explained how she had framed Xiao Zhongqi to Dongling. After she heard everything, Dongling burst into laughter, "Young miss, you're so mean. This is called placing the blame on someone else. I killed Xue Meng while Xiao Zhongqi had stolen Lotus Flame Furnace and Water Pearl. Guess whether that old man Anghua Gong would think Xue Meng is more important or Lotus Flame Furnace and Water Pearl." Dongling scratched her head and said, "Blood runs deeper than water, after all the affection between father and daughter." Huang Beiyue knocked on Dongling's head. What affection between father and daughter? In these famous families, there is no such thing as affection. There are only benefits. Look at Xiao Yuanqing and you'll understand. Dongling's expression dimmed and patted Huang Beiyue's hand saying, "Young miss, don't be upset with how the Lord is right now." She shouldn't be too upset. There was no affection between Xiao Yuanqing and her. In her heart, she had never accepted Xiao Yuanqing as her father. Although the truth is that she couldn't deny was that the Lord and Huang Beiyue were related by blood. Dongling was innocent and gentle unlike her. After experiencing so much, she had become isolated and bitter. The noise outside got louder and louder. The quiet night was completely disturbed. The lights in Princess Zhang's prefecture were turned on. The young masters/misses and concubines were all woken up. Right now they were all frightened by the murderous aura outside. They all hid in their rooms, afraid to go out. Huang Beiyue and Dongling walked over to the front yard where the Xiao family and Anghua Gong's prefecture's people were at. The atmosphere was hostile and it seemed to be the point where if they started arguing, countless people were going to die. Xiao Yuanqing didn't even wear his clothes properly on time. He stood at the door with Anghua Gong. Anghua Gong's clothes also weren't properly dressed and he had on the black fox fur coat from before. Xueqi noisily exclaimed, "Where is Xiao Zhongqi? Let him come out." Xueqi's voice was firm, plus he had let out the giant red spider out, which had stood proudly in front of Princess Zhonggong's prefecture. Everyone was frightened by the red spider's size. That Xiao Zhongqi probably had received the news, thus the reason why he still hadn't come out. Only Xiao Yun's calmness was still intact. She summoned her sky snow cat out and squatted in front of the yard, staring at the red spider. To fight openly and maneuver covertly, 1. The sky snow cat and the red spider, the difference in levels were too high. The sky snow cat wouldn't be able to beat the red spider. It was weaker than the red spider. Huang Beiyu thought it was funny to look at. She couldn't hold it in, so she covered her mouth with her hand while laughing. Dongling couldn't hold it in either. "Third young miss. How did you come here?" A voice came from the back which belonged to someone who was sneaking around. Dongling turned around and saw it was Pei Xiang. She then put away her smile and explained, "Third young miss came over here to see what happened." Pei Xiang answered with a low voice, "What happened?" "It's the eldest young master who had gotten in trouble. Who knew what he does every day? There's no improvement and he only knew to cause trouble. This time he caused a huge trouble." The corner of Huang Beiyu's mouth tilted up, her expression indifferent. "What trouble did he cause?" "I heard that the eldest young master was extremely reckless. He actually went to Gong's prefecture and stole the famous lotus flame furnace." When Pei Xiang explained, she was angry. Just before concubine Qin was angry and that go her pinched. It had hurt so much. Dongling pretended to be shocked. "Lotus flame furnace. That's so daring. What was the eldest young master thinking? Gong's prefecture has a lot of power. It's not someone who he can offend." Pei Xiang's face was indignant. "That's right, who knew what he was thinking?" Concubine Qin was so furious. "I think this time, the Lord would harshly punish Concubine Qin. Concubine Qin will lose favor." Dongling comforted her, "Don't worry, Concubine Qin has Qingxiang's prefecture behind her back. Plus Concubine Qin is beautiful, she won't lose favor." Pei Xiang raised her eyes and carefully looked at Huang Beiyu before saying, "Third young miss, how about you let me follow you? Pei Xiang, with you at Concubine Qin's side helping me, I'll be more than relieved." Huang Beiyu turned around and looked at her. The white face revealed a simple and elegant smile. Dongling added, "That's right. Without you, how can the young miss beat Concubine Qin? When the young miss is in charge of Princess Zhang's prefecture, you'll be the biggest hero." Pei Xiang's face flashed over a happy expression and hurriedly exclaimed, "Thank you, third young miss." Pei Xiang will do her best to help third young miss. Huang Beiyu nodded and gave a look to Dongling. Dongling smiled and grabbed a pocket of gold coins from her sleeves to Pei Xiang. "Sister Pei Xiang, use this money first. Young miss has rewarded you it." Pei Xiang's eyes were almost straight and she widened her mouth. "This is a whole packet of gold coins. Growing up this big, she had never seen that much money. In the Cardi mainland, gold coins were the most valuable type of coins. The income of normal people, at most they would only have 20-something gold coins. Yet when young miss had given her something, it was a whole packet of gold coins. There were at least 100-something gold coins. "Thank you, young miss." Pei Xiang was so joyful she couldn't even close her mouth. Dongling smiled, "Keep it safe, don't let anyone see it." Pei Xiang nodded her head rapidly and then lowered her voice to announce, "Third young miss, the problem that the eldest young master had caused will probably go out of hand. The emperor will probably get to know about it too. No matter how much power the prime minister has, it wouldn't be more than the emperor's. Therefore, concubine Qin might come back and beg you for your help. Huang Beiyu raised her eyebrows. Beg me? Well, right now, who doesn't know the emperor has the third young miss in his heart? Plus the crown prince and princess Yingyi are also fond of the third young miss. One sentence from you is probably more useful than 10 sentences from the prime minister. Pei Xiang tried to please her. Although it wasn't really pleasing since, after that day's palace banquet, the emperor's attitude about this was obvious. To fight openly and maneuver covertly, too. Besides that, the emperor had rewarded many treasures to Huang Beiyu. The whole Linhuai city all knew that Huang Beiyu from Princess Zhang's prefecture was appreciated by the emperor. Who would dare to look down at her? Now that Xiao Zhongqi had caused such a huge trouble, even if the prime minister had begged the emperor, there would be no use. However, if Huang Beiyu went to beg, things would be hard to say. Dongling coldly smiled. How did she treat our young miss before? If she dared to beg, I will beat her out. Pei Xiang hurriedly added, that's right, she won't even come because she's afraid to lose face. Pei Xiang. Huang Beiyu calmly stated. Go back and try to convince her to come to beg me. Maybe I'll really help her. Pei Xiang was stunned, even Dongling was. They didn't understand. Huang Beiyu didn't explain because it was rowdy at the door. Xueqi had been yelling but Xiao Zhongqi hadn't shown up. How could he let this go? Instead, he had begun to use violence. The huge spider's claws slashed down and a couple of the Xiao family's experts flew away. Xiao Yuanqing angrily shouted, Xueqi. We didn't even figure out what happened. Why are you using violence? Xueqi shouted more angrily, Humph. Xiao Zhongqi is someone who can't face the reality and is hiding from the problem. He's not out, which means he actually stole something, that's why he's scared. If you know what's good for you, let him come out and hand over the lotus flame furnace and water pearl. Then we'll let him go. Who said this young master isn't coming out? A voice came from the front yard. He wore a body of silver armor and walked to the front in large strides. He stood in the middle of the yard and pushed the long-handled weapon with pointed tip and crescent blade onto the floor. Why are you blaming it on me when Anguo Gong's prefecture was the one who lost something? Xueqi saw him and his eyes were red. Anguo Gong's face was filled with anger. Xiao Zhongqi, you had dropped your personal jade pendant and you want to say it's not you? Xueqi raised his hand and took out a block of green emerald jade. Xiao Zhongqi's eyes widened. Why do you have my jade pendant? Humph. Why? You should ask yourself this question. Hand over the lotus flame furnace and water pearl. I told you, I don't know what a lotus flame furnace is. Xiao Zhongqi defended. His personal jade pendant is always by his side and he would never take it off. Why would it appear in Anguo Gong's prefecture? This most likely meant he had been chosen to be the scapegoat for someone else. But based on this situation, this pair of father and son believe that he is the thief. There was no way to explain this. Xueqi saw that he would never admit to it no matter what, so his anger increased. Okay. You don't want to admit to it. Then when I kill you, I will search for it. Xueqi raised his hand and that red spider screamed towards the sky. Its 8 legs crawled in the direction of Xiao Zhongqi. That Xiao Zhongqi isn't that weak either. After all, he is an imperial silver warrior. His strength can go against a 4-star summoner and their spiritual beast. However, Xueqi's red spider was too strong. With this level, even a 6-star summoner who saw it might not even battle against it. Xiao Zhongqi's head dropped down beads of sweat. His hand held the long-handled weapon with a pointed tip and crescent blade, and he got in fighting stance. His eyes widened like a cow. Stop. In the black night street, came a cold yell. Following that, the sound of horses rang. In the middle of the night, those who are trying to find trouble in front of Princess Zhang's prefecture are disturbing the imperial security. Those with this crime can be beheaded. A voice of authority sounded. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 3. Black Cavalry. Black Cavalry that guarded the imperial capital. A team of Black Cavalry, in the blink of an eye, arrived in front of Princess Zhang's prefecture. The leader was a man who raised the hose whip and asked, "What are you guys trying to do? Do you guys not have the law in your eyes?" No matter how unreasonable and greedy Anguagong is, he didn't dare to go against the royalties right now. Not only that, the Black Cavalry were not biased. They had gone against royalties and ministers before. They were all warriors above the silver rank. Offending them wouldn't be fun. At the moment, Anguagong jumped off from the carriage and explained to the man who had the horse whip, "Commander, the Shao family were the ones who went over the line. They allowed their son to steal the treasure from my prefecture. This lord just wanted his treasure back." The commander seriously replied, "This commander doesn't interfere with private business. But it is now in the middle of the night and this commander doesn't allow people to cause trouble in the streets. Otherwise, this commander won't be kind anymore." But how could Anguagong let it go? As soon as he thought about the lotus flame furnace and the water pearl, his heart felt like it going to be ripped out. "There's no buts." The commander ordered. "Do we really need to startle the crown prince?" The commander's eyes swept over to the red spider and there was a glimmer of light under the black mask. That meaning is very clear. Even if it was the rank 11 red spider, as long as the crown prince's purple fire Qilin came, the red spider would be destroyed. Anguagong's face immediately changed and Xueqie also revealed a glimpse of nervousness. A 9-star summoner and has the purple fire unicorn. In the entire Nan Yigua, probably only one person could battle against the crown prince. Shi Tiandarin. If Shi Tiandarin was on their side right now, then they could destroy Princess Zhang's prefecture without hesitance. Xueqie kept the hate in his heart. With the commander of the Black Cavalry here, he could only put the red spider away. Anguagong continued with a heavy sigh, "You dare to steal the treasure of my prefecture? This lord won't just let this go." Xueqie also glared at Xiao Zhongqi, "Wait for it." Xiao Zhongqi didn't want to seem weak and glared back. He didn't steal the lotus flame furnace yet he had to suffer from all this. He had let people come to his house and threatened him. Now, where would his faces be if people knew about it? Anguagong, both father and son had left but the people that surrounded Princess Zhang's prefecture hadn't. Xiao Yuanqing furiously turned around and pointed at Xiao Zhongqi's nose. "What good things did you actually do?" "Father, I was framed." Xiao Zhongqi almost jumped. He had taken the blame for someone else out of nowhere and he was so angry. What made it worse was that his family didn't even believe him. Framed? Then what about the story of the jade pendant? To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 4th, this. Xiao Zhongqi wasn't able to explain either. He thought about the time today when he had played around with concubine Shue's maids. That's probably the time when he dropped it. But how could he tell his father that? If his mother knew that he fooled around with concubine Shue's maids, she would be angry. Father would be angry too. So hateful. It's definitely that Xueqie who purposefully tried to frame me. They lost the items in their prefecture and couldn't find it. That's why they're trying to frame me. Xiao Yuanqing heard the explanation and thought that it might be a possibility. He humphed and angrily turned his head around. Concubine Qin saw that his son had suffered so much and her heart was pained. Lord, we need to think of a solution to this problem. Humph, how can we solve it? First, let that stupid son explain why his jade pendant was found in Gong's prefecture. Xiao Yuanqing humphed. In his heart, he was depressed. Originally he had planned everything out. He wanted Xiao Yun to marry Xueqie so that he could use Gong's prefecture's power to strengthen his status. The plan was going well and the two families were satisfied. Who knew halfway through this would happen? Gong's prefecture's treasure, the lotus flame furnace and that water pearl were stolen. Those two items both disappeared at the same time and it all led to Xiao Zhongqi. This is definitely not a small problem. If it wasn't solved correctly and if the Xiao family really offended Gong's prefecture, this huge statue, then they probably won't have anywhere else to stand in Nanny country. The more he thought about it in his heart, the more worried he became. He walked around in the yard, back and forth. How do we solve this problem? Zhongqi, you tell me. Xiao Zhongqi's mouth widened but he had no thoughts in his head. He could only depressingly say, this had nothing to do with me. How about we just let them come in the prefecture and search? That is absurd. A cold voice suddenly rang. Xiao Yuanqing looked and Huang Beiyu slowly walked over, her expression unhappy. If we let people just come in and search, then where would the faces of Princess Zhang's prefecture be? The black eyes swept through everyone's faces. The eyes were calm but there was a kind of deterrent in there that can't be described. For a moment, the people in the yard were all stunned by the look she gave. Princess Zhang's prefecture was the place that Princess Zhang had lived when she was alive. It held Princess Zhang's memorial tablet here. If it startled Princess Zhang's departed spirit and the emperor knows and get angry, who will be held responsible for this crime? Concubine Xue immediately followed, that is right. The eldest master had caused the trouble himself so he should think of ways to solve by himself. Princess Zhang's prefecture is not a place where people can just come in and search. Concubine Qin harshly glared at her and insulted Concubine Xue in her heart for attacking them when they were down. When she finds a chance, she will let Concubine Xue suffer. Third young Miss this time your big brother is framed. You can't just watch him die and not save him. Concubine Qin suddenly smiled while talking to Huang Beiyu. In her memory, she rarely saw Concubine Qin reveal that smile to try to please her. Concubine Qin's face was pretty but that smile made her want to vomit. Concubine, you're funny. What solutions would I have? I'm just a normal person. After Huang Beiyu had finished, she softly coughed. Her pale face revealed a weak and sick expression. Concubine Xue obviously knew what Concubine Qin was thinking about. After all, she just wanted Huang Beiyu to go to the emperor and beg him. Concubine Xue wouldn't let that happen. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 5. What happened with the eldest young master was suspicious. The people from Gong's prefecture had evidence. If the elder master wanted to prove himself innocent, then shouldn't he explain why his personal jade pendant appeared in Gong's prefecture? Concubine Xue looked towards Concubine Qin. The expression in which Concubine Xue takes joy in her pain made Concubine Qin clenched her jaws tightly. Someone framed me. What is there to explain? Framed? Well, there needed to be evidence in order to frame someone, right, Sister Qin? Concubine Xue had a sharp mouth, not something Concubine Qin could be compared to. Humph. This is actually not a big deal. As long as we examined it clearly, then Zhongqi can be proved innocent. Concubine Qin loudly exclaimed. I don't believe this world doesn't have the law. Concubine Xue coldly smiled but didn't bother with her. Instead, she turned around to Huang Beiyu and stated, "Third young miss, it's dark and your body is weak. So don't stand outside. I'll bring you back to Flowing Clouds Pavilion." Having watched enough of the show and knowing that nothing interesting was going to happen if she stayed, Huang Beiyu nodded her head. She didn't care about Xiao Yuancheng's reactions and left while concubine Xue hurriedly followed behind. After walking for a distance, concubine Xue added, "Third young miss, the eldest young master's problem is tricky. You shouldn't interfere. The event with Xue Meng had just happened, and if you interfere yourself with this problem, you're probably going to get yourself into a bigger issue." The way she said seemed to be sensible and really for her consideration. Huang Beiyu laughed coldly. This problem, even if concubine Qin begged her, she wouldn't care. After all, she was the one that framed Xiao Zhongqi. She couldn't wait to see the Xiao family fight against Ongwa Gongfu. The harsher they fight the better. Concubine Xue. Huang Beiyu stopped walking and turned around to look at her. This time nothing will happen to Big Brother. Concubine Qin will turn to the Prime Minister for help. Concubine Xue sneered and thought in her heart that this girl is too innocent. Don't worry. Last time the third young miss had said that Empress Dowager doesn't like that slut. These 2 years, although no one had mentioned what had happened in the past, it doesn't mean that it had never happened. For this, I already have a plan. As long as the third young miss doesn't interfere, I have a plan where she can never turn the situation back around. I naturally won't be doing anything. Huang Beiyu smiled faintly. After waiting for so long, this chance had finally come. After concubine Xue had gotten her promise, she walked away happily. Dongling held Huang Beiyu back to Flowing Clouds Pavilion and asked confusedly, "So is the young miss helping concubine Qin and the eldest young master or not?" "Well, that depends on their luck." Huang Beiyu chuckled. "Dongling, while they are fighting, we are the ones benefiting from this. Just sit back and watch the show." As usual, young miss is the smarter one. One step at a time, young miss had calculated everyone in Anguagong's prefecture, the Xiao family, concubine Xue and Qin, eldest young master and the second young miss, all had randomly suffered. The few steps that young miss had made were amazing. Who told them to ask for trouble? Huang Beiyu wrinkled her eyebrows. These were all just a small punishment. It could be counted towards punishing them to make Princess Zhang and Princess Beiyu feel a little better. The second day, the news that Anguagong's prefecture had lost their treasures had shocked the whole Linhuai city. The Lotus Flame Furnace and the Water Pearl were both lost at the same time. Even the emperor who had heard this was shocked. In the morning royal court, Anguagong cried and begged the emperor to check out what had happened and bring him justice. In their hands held important evidence which pointed towards Xiao family. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 6. Xiao Yuanqing hurriedly explained that Xiao Zhongqi had never left the house yesterday, so it was impossible that he had gone to Anguagong's prefecture and stole the Lotus Flame Furnace. This statement had made Anguagong think that Xiao Yuanqing wanted to shelter Xiao Zhongqi. This led Xiao Yuanqing, who was a grumpy person, to become angry. Thus, the two had fought and insulted one another on the royal court to the point where they were going to use violence. The emperor had already heard this yesterday, that Anguagong had taken people and surrounded Princess Zhang's prefecture. The two families almost had a big fight and the emperor was already irritated. Now he saw that the two people had openly fought with one another in the royal court. He was even more furious. He ordered for Xiao Yuanqing and Anguagong to be kicked out of the court. This event had spread throughout the entire Linhuai city, which people had used it as a joke to talk to one another. However, Anguagong and Xiao Yuanqing had completely broken off their relations. Xueqi and Xiao Yun's marriage was called off naturally. Lingyang College. The horse carriage of Princess Zhang's prefecture had stopped in front of the school doors, which immediately caught many people's attention. Xiao Yun and Xiao Rou, along with a few others, had gotten off the carriage first. After that, Huang Beiyu had gotten off another carriage. The surrounding people all looked at her in shock. Yesterday Huang Beiyu had killed Xue Meng in the arena. Everyone thought that she would hide in her prefecture for a couple of months before she reappeared. No one knew that she would have come to the school the next day as though nothing had happened. Is she not afraid she might meet Xueqie? Even though there was some distance between the Imperial College and the East Yard, but if Xueqie wanted to come to find her for revenge, it'll is easy. It was rumored that Princess Beiyu was weak, shy, and of waste. How come the Princess Beiyu they had seen right now is a brave girl who dared to take responsibility for her actions? Today Huang Beiyu wore a haze-colored embroidered peach-breasted skirt which made her look elegant. The pure color enhanced the exquisite face that doesn't have any powder applied. Her expression was indifferent and there wasn't a specific emotion that was shown. A pair of black eyes were calm, which revealed a mysterious atmosphere. This led many young masters to be absent-minded and interested in her. Xiao Yun also wore her most beautiful clothes today. She wore the brightest peach-red color, and it was made from Lin Huai City's most famous tailor, in the newest style. That bright color enhanced the color of her cheeks. Her charming skills was what made people admire her. Even if the marriage with Ongwa Gong's prefecture was called off, she still had to dress beautifully. It's not like she appreciated a Xueqie. But as soon as she got off the carriage, she noticed most of the attention went to Huang Beiyu. There were some admiration, shock, and love. This discovery led Xiao Yun to be shocked. The clothes that Huang Beiyu wore were almost old-fashioned and she didn't apply any powder or dressed as charming as her. Are these people's eyes blind? Second sister, did you notice that third sister had become a little different? Xiao Zhonglei stared at Huang Beiyu and asked Xiao Yun. Humph. What's different about her? Xiao Yun replied unhappily. Xiao Zhonglei looked at Huang Beiyu, who walked in front of girls her age. He had never carefully looked at this little sister who was only a couple of days younger than him. He had never noticed how elegant and graceful she was. As though she was meant to be royalty from birth, faintly revealing a hard-to-explain grandeur. Even though she had never applied powder to her face, it was still beautiful and exquisite. She was so beautiful that it led him to be lost. It seemed like. Xiao Zhonglei's absent-minded eyes followed her. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 7. He didn't know how to explain it either. He had just noticed recently how attractive Huang Beiyu was. Xiao Yun turned her head to see that his real brother is that immature. She couldn't explain the anger and smacked him on his face. Stupid boy. Mature up. You and her are siblings, same father different mother. Xiao Yun's voice was loud. Even Huang Beiyu walked in the front had turned around and stared at them. Xiao Zhonglei's face immediately turned red. Second sister, stop saying random things. I am mature. After saying that, he felt guilty and didn't dare to raise his head. Xiao Yun looked at him and rolled her eyes. She got more furious in her heart. Today's class at the Imperial College was literature and history. It was so boring, but Princess Yingyi had also chosen that class. When Huang Beiyu had taken a seat in the classroom, Princess Yingyi had come. Princess Yingyi had already known that Huang Beiyu had also chosen this class, so she went to see her first. She smiled and walked over and sat on the seat beside her. Yesterday I heard there was a ruckus in Princess Zhang's prefecture. Father Emperor was worried the whole night, but thank goodness Royal Brother had sent the Black Cavalry over. Beiyu, are you okay? Huang Beiyu's heart had skipped and raised her head to say, last night, it was the crown prince who had sent the black cavalry over. Yeah, royal brother was the first one who had gotten the news that Gong's prefecture had came in a thief. He knew that Gong would go to Princess Zhang's prefecture and cause a ruckus, and he was scared that they might startle royal aunt's memorial tablet, so he sent the black cavalry over. It's the crown prince who planned everything out. Huang Beiyu lowly exclaimed. Who knew that the cold crown prince Zhang Yi had such a detailed mind, as though he had been taking care of her every moment? Princess Yi smiled then frowned. Now that we think about it, it's all Xiao Zhongqi's fault. He was the one to cause the trouble and left evidence. Such a stupid pig. The way that Princess Yi said it seemed to have a deeper meaning. What she meant was, had Xiao Zhongqi not left evidence and not harmed Princess Zhang's prefecture, then she would be extremely happy that Gong's treasure of the prefecture was stolen. However, in Princess Yi's heart, Huang Beiyu was an innocent and kind girl, so she didn't know what to say. In Huang Beiyu's heart, she thought that this princess's personality fits her taste. She smiled sneakily before she exclaimed, "Big brother is reckless. Yesterday concubine Qin hoped I could beg the emperor. But with these kinds of problem, if he doesn't return the precious device, then what good is begging for him?" Beg? Princess Yi scoffed. Beiyu, don't interfere with this problem. If you interfere, you'll offend Gong. That old fatty is a sneaky person. If you offend him, his methods for offending people are sinister. I didn't agree either. I don't even know what to do with Xuemeng's situation. Don't worry about Xuemeng. The lotus flame furnace and water pearl were stolen. Gong doesn't have time to bother himself with Xuemeng's situation. Princess Yi couldn't help herself and coldly laughed. Huang Beiyu's heart felt heavier after she looked at Princess Yi's expression. She knew that Princess Yi was born in the royal family and saw a lot of struggles and fight. Actually, she knew in her heart better than anyone that affection between relatives in royal families or in big families meant little to nothing. Young Master Luo, this is literature and history class. You should just put up with it and listen. Humph, why don't you let me go to the East Yard? I can also become a master in martial arts. Ah. The young man's unsatisfied voice rang. Yes, yes, yes. Young master is definitely a genius. Next year when there is the assessment, young master can get into the East Yard. Came the servant's pleasing voice. To fight openly and maneuver covertly, 8, along with the voice, a young handsome boy who was in his teens walked over. His bottom lips jutted out, not knowing what he had suffered from. The book boy behind him carried his school utensils and packed lunch for him. The book boy tried his best to please the young boy. The black eyes swept through everyone's face and saw Huang Beiyu. The young boy's eyes shined and walked over in large strides. Huang Beiyu, who had seen this, had jumped. She thought in her heart whether she was going to be exposed. It didn't make sense though. This child didn't seem to have a sharp mind. You're Princess Beiyu from Princess Zhang's prefecture. Luo stood in front of Huang Beiyu's desk, his two hands on the desk, and leaned forward. He saw that her eyes shined as brightly as the stars. Huang Beiyu had a good impression of this young boy called Luo, so she nodded her head. Luo clapped his hands and smiled. Yesterday I didn't come, so I didn't see your performance in the arena. So regretful. But you are so strong and I admire you for being able to kill Xuemeng, that evil girl. Xuemeng was the bully in school and usually bothered those new kids whose strengths were weak. Luo was one of them and hadn't suffered any less from Xuemeng, so he really hated her. Yesterday when he found out a hero had killed Xuemeng on the arena, he was so excited he wanted to go immediately to see that hero. After he heard that the hero was like him, who was also a student at Imperial College and also the famous waste from Princess Zhang's prefecture, young Master Luo Luo immediately made her his confidant. Huang Beiyu calmly fixed, I didn't kill her. She killed herself. She was suffering from her own actions. It had nothing to do with Beiyu. Princess Yingyi also added on one side. She looked at Luo Luo and exclaimed, why don't you run after Shi Tiandaran? Why are you here at Imperial College? Don't mind my business. After that day at the auction where Princess Yingyi had disrespected Shi Tiandaran, Luo Luo didn't have a good impression on this rude princess. Princess Yingyi jutted her lips and explained, that strange Shi Tian who always covered herself with a cloak, only you guys would think of her as a god. Shi Tiandaran is a god. If she was god, then she wouldn't help Xueqie. Why give him the red spider? What I think is that she and Ongwa Gong, father and son, are together on one side. When Luo Luo had heard other people had insulted the god, in his perspective, he got angry. The purpose of why Shi Tiandaran did that is not something a dumb person like you could understand. Let me tell you, Shi Tian wanted to help Xueqie because she wanted. Young Master Luo Luo, it's almost time for class. It's better if you sit down now. The teacher is here. Huang Beiyu hurriedly interrupted and stood up. She patted his shoulder and told him to go back to his seat. What a joke. If she had let him blabber on about Shi Tian's negative feelings toward Xueqie and it spread, then her plan will go to waste. Luo Luo didn't want to let this go. He jutted his lips and glared at Princess Yingyi. Princess Beiyu, you had killed Xuemeng. From now on, you are definitely my Luo Luo, Bujier's friend. If you have any problems in the future, I will help you. Thank you. Stupid innocent boy. Princess Yingyi watched as Luo Luo walked back to his seat before she muttered. Princess, you think that Shi Tian isn't a good person. Huang Beiyu tested. That day she had ridden horses with Xueqie on the streets. The crown prince had seen, so Princess Yingyi must have known too. That's probably why she had negative feelings towards Shi Tian. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 9. Those who are close to Ongwa Gong, father and son, are not good people. Princess Yingyi exclaimed. Her face flashed over sadness. She continued, actually whether she is a good person or not doesn't matter to me. But royal brother was upset. Huang Beiyu looked at her expression and sighed. Royal brother really admires her. But she is on Ongwa Gong's side. Humph. She and royal brother can't be friends. Then they can only be enemies. Huang Beiyu couldn't help become depressed. Since when was she on Ongwa Gong's side? After the morning class had ended, most of the young masters/misses in the imperial capital didn't go home to eat. First, the ride home would be bumpy. Secondly, in the school, there were many young misses/masters that came from famous families. Everyone could eat and talk to one another to improve their relationships and it will benefit their future as well. Due to this, whenever they go to class, their maids would prepare lunch boxes. In the afternoon, they would eat in school. There were numerous people in the cafeteria so Princess Yingyi had taken Huang Beiyu out. They would have lunch in the school's Songju pavilion. Huang Beiyu had only brought one maid, Dongling. While Princess Yingyi had brought two, whose skills were pretty good. One was called Wu Shuang and the other was called Wu Huan. Dongling and the two maids had gotten along pretty well. The three maids had laughed and chuckled. In Songju Pavilion, the mood was cheery. At this time, there were a few zither notes. It's Prince Yi's zither notes. Wu Shuang was immersed in it. Prince Yi is a real gentleman. Yeah, these zither notes are incomparable to anyone else's. Wu Huan covered her mouth and smiled. Even Princess Yingyi couldn't help but faintly smiled. It was obvious that she admired him. This girl Watch out. I will hit you. Wu Shuang's face immediately turned red. She looked over at Princess Yingyi, who was immersed in the zither note, so she glared at Wu Huan. Huang Beiyu furrowed her eyebrows. Kind and elegant. Gentlemen. That's because they all had never seen him under the mask. The zither notes were like the wind. It blew to everyone's heart. In the afternoon of Imperial College, it all quieted down, allowing the zither notes spread. Yesterday Feng Lianyi had stolen Lotus Flame Furnace and Huang Beiyu held a stomach of fire. When she finds a chance, she will make him suffer. Now that she heard his zither notes, she couldn't stop the memories from yesterday. She unhappily placed her chopsticks down. Beiyu, you hadn't officially seen Prince Yi. He is the substitute teacher for the zither class. I'll take you over to see him. Princess Yingyi suddenly stood up and pulled on Huang Beiyu's hand, taking her away. Dong Ling said, Princess, our young miss didn't sign up for zither class. Wu Huan patted her shoulder and said, it's our princess who wanted to see Prince Yi. She's scared, that's why she had pulled Princess Beiyu with her. Could it be that Princess Yingyi had feelings for Prince Yi? Dong Ling was slightly surprised. Princess and Prince Yi had grown up together. Princess just admires Prince Yi's personality is all. Wu Shuang hurriedly explained and looked at Wu Huan, who had spoken too much. So that's what happened. Dong Ling nodded her head and packed the lunch boxes away. Let's go over there too. Qin Park. The faint flower trailed down from the wisteria and the lilac flowers looked extremely like someone's eyes. The steps were light and quiet, the zither notes were closer. As they approached, the beautiful zither notes like heaven had stopped. To fight openly and maneuver covertly, 10, Princess Yingyi stopped her footsteps. She quietly stuck out her tongue. In a low voice she said, when he plays the zither, he doesn't like to be disturbed. It seems that we have been discovered. Huang Beiyu can't help but disdain him in her heart, peculiar. However, her impression of Feng Lianyi fell extremely short. So when he's upset, it makes her really happy. Seeing that there was a little disappointment in Princess Yingyi's face, Princess Yingyi, turned around to leave. Huang Beiyu pulled her hand and said, since we're already here, let's go greet the teacher. But, Princess Yingyi hesitated. Everything about that man is good. It's just that when he is playing the zither and gets disturbed by other people, he's unhappy. However, Huang Beiyu had already walked around her. Without a choice, Princess Yingyi could only keep up with her. The park as supported by flowers and trees. In the middle of the park, a zither was placed. A few purple petals fluttered down onto the zither. There was no one next to the zither. Huang Beiyu walked over, her eyes were cold and sharp. She looked all around as she slowly walked to the zither, fiddling with its strings. Beiyu, don't touch it. Princess Yingyi said behind her. She also looked around the park, there was no one. In her heart, she knew that he must have been unhappy, so he had left. She wanted to tell Huang Beiyu to quickly leave when she noticed that the door of the park was open. Feng Lianyi, who was wearing a white robe, stood at the door. A faint smile was on his face. Princess Yingyi can't help but stare blankly. She felt that it was strange. Huang Beiyu lifted her head. Because her back was facing Princess Yingyi, her eyes were cold and intimidating. Feng Lianyi looked at her deeply, with a smile, he turned towards Princess Yingyi. Why did the princess come? He didn't get angry. Princess Yingyi's heart was happy. She quickly said, I heard Big Brother Yi's zither sound and was attracted to it. As she said that, she didn't forget about Huang Beiyu. She walked up to Huang Beiyu and pulled on her hand and said, this is Princess Bei Yu from Princess Zhang's prefecture. Yesterday, she had started class at Lingyang College. So today, I had brought her here to meet you. When a new student first enters the school, they would go and greet each teacher. Huang Bei Yu had already seen Feng Lianyi. But saying that would make the princess lose face. So she slightly raised the corners of her mouth and said, Prince Yi's elegant demeanor, I had been looking forward to meeting you. Today, we had finally met. Princess Bei Yu is overpraising me. Princess's big name was already spread across Linhuai City. I can't believe that Princess is this young and yet your skills are this good. Feng Lianyi said with a smile on his face. I don't dare. It was just that I was lucky that I had met a shrewd expert and ate a big loss. Huang Bei Yu's eyes flashed. Didn't I eat a big loss at your hand yesterday? Feng Lianyi, in a graceful manner, said, Princess is so smart. How could you eat a loss? Perhaps one day, I wasn't careful and meet a rogue. Then wouldn't I have to eat a loss? Huang Bei Yu said with an innocent face. Throwing insults in front of that person, it felt the best. The smiling expression in his eyes slowly deepened. This little girl's mouth is just like his skills, difficult to deal with. The two people, you say a sentence, the other will say a speech. Their speech seemed to be a conventional greeting. But in the dark, they were secretly having a banter. Only the two of them could understand the second meaning of each other's words. Princess Yi laughed and said, Big brother Yi, you might not know this but Bei Yu since little had a weak body. Hence she couldn't learn martial arts. Yesterday in the arena, if it weren't that Xuemeng is so stupid, Bei Yu would have really eaten a loss. Xuemeng took an unfair advantage by bullying the weak. She also used a weapon, doesn't that mean that Xuemeng is a rogue? Huang Bei Yu nodded her head, while facing Feng Lianyi, said, yes, a rogue. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 11. Her gaze stopped on his body for a while before she looked away. Normal. Feng Lianyi smiled at her, the lavender eyes seemed to be deep like an ocean without end. Suffer. She didn't even need a finger to kill Xuemeng. If Huang Bei Yu had suffered, that would be strange. What relying on the strong and bully the weak? She was the one to bully others. It's just that Xuemeng was unlucky for challenging her and not being scared. The consequences were obvious. The most unlucky was how everyone thought Xuemeng lost to someone who was considered a waste. In his heart, Feng Lianyi thought, Huang Bei Yu was two-sided and sinister. However, this type of two-sided and sinister character was just like him. Princess, do you remember where the good tea leaves were when you sent it to me? Feng Lianyi smiled faintly, the warm lavender eyes looked at Princess Yi. Princess Yi knew he was going to make tea to treat them, so she happily exclaimed, I know. Brother Yi, sit. I'll go make the tea. After she finished, she walked away joyfully. Huang Bei Yu sighed in her heart. She really was an innocent girl. She didn't even know she was sent away on purpose, yet she was still happy. After Princess Yi had left, Huang Bei Yu's expression dimmed. She was cold like ice and held both her hands with a small face, and looked at him coldly. She didn't lose to the purple-eyed man who was only a couple years older than him in momentum. Yesterday's events, thank Princess Bei Yu for framing it on your brother. Feng Lianyi exclaimed calmly, his smile carried some sinister in it. Huang Bei Yu sneered, there's a price for letting me help you. Price? Is one water pearl not enough? Feng Lianyi explained calmly. What do I need that item for? Even though yesterday it was the plan she already made, but it wasn't because she wanted to help him, so she framed Xiao Zhongqi. However, she also indirectly helped him, which led him to be free of worries. All the crimes were placed upon Xiao Zhongqi to carry. A person like her isn't that compassionate to go around and help others. Since he had benefited from her, there was nothing wrong with wanting something in return. Feng Lian smiled at her as though he sort of agreed to it. Then what do you want? If you want the lotus flame furnace, I probably can't give it to you. I don't need you to give me that item. What belonged to me, I will get it back in the future. I'm just letting you keep it from me right now. Feng Lian smiled deeply. It was the first time seeing this kind of arrogant and proud girl. She is only 12 years old. Where is she getting her momentum from? If it's not Lotus Flame Furnace, then I might consider it. Huang Beiyue squinted her eyes and said, I want 2 marrow cleansing pills. Feng Lian was stunned and his purple eyes flashed. I'm not a refining pharmacist though. I don't care if you are or not. Since you had stolen the Lotus Flame Furnace, it's probably not used for decoration for home, right? Huang Beiyue looked at him and continued, if you have a refining pharmacist at your place then using the Lotus Flame Furnace to create marrow cleansing pill, the succeeding rate should be very high. Give me 2 pills and I will keep the secret that you had stole the Lotus Flame Furnace. Princess, that day who had come to Ongwagong and stole it, wasn't just me. Huang Beiyue jutted her lips and smiled sneakily. You think, how many people are going to believe what you said? A waste, who was sick and weak from little was able to barge into Ongwagong Fu and steal treasures. Want to threaten her? Then he needed to have evidence. Otherwise, who would believe she had the capabilities? To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 12. Feng Lian helplessly shook his head. I lost to you in being sneaky and sinister. Huang Beiyue raised her eyebrows. Will it be okay if you don't lose to me? But refining the marrow cleansing pill isn't as easy as it looks. I need a bit of time. This, I obviously know. I have the patience to wait. The few precious refining ingredients needed to refine marrow cleansing pill, I will also help to look. Huang Beiyue had never thought of letting him do all the work for refining the marrow cleansing pill. There were a couple rare refining materials that can't even be bought by money. Feng Lian seriously thought about it for a while, then said, after 2 months, it's the best time to refine the pill. Until then we need to gather all the necessary materials, the more the better. Huang Beiyue wasn't sure of how the medicine was prescribed, therefore she exclaimed, give me a list of what you need. I will go find it. Okay. He agreed with a faint smile. He raised his head just in time to see Princess Yingyi walked in and held tea utensils. His smile slowly dimmed. Huang Beiyue also heard her footsteps, so she turned around and sat down at the zither table. She randomly made a couple zither notes. The 2 people were relaxed and immersed in the zither notes, as though their conversation had never happened. They didn't know what type of tea that Princess Yingyi had made, but in the entire park, the aroma floated around. She arranged the teacups and poured tea into the 3 cups skillfully. They hadn't even drunk the tea when Dong Ling and the 2 maids rushed in. Young miss. Oh no, Xueqie and the eldest young master are fighting outside. Huang Beiyue thought in her heart how the Xiao family was part of her business. She would be happy if the 2 of them were both hurt. However, Princess Yingyi was here right now, so it didn't look too good if she acted cold. Therefore she stood up and asked, what happened? It was Xueqie who had challenged first. I am guessing that eldest young master wouldn't be able to win against Xueqie. Let's go look. Huang Beiyue placed her teacup down and left with Dong Ling quickly. Since the deal with Feng Lian was clear, there isn't anything interesting here. She wanted to leave quickly too. Xueqie and Xiao Zhongqi fought in the arena. Xiao Zhongqi, that impulsive personality, most likely Xueqie had used a psychological method to get Xueqie to agree to go to the arena. He didn't even think about what rank he is to compete against Xueqie. The battle between summoners and warriors, from the start, warriors were meant to lose. Not only to mention that Xueqie also had a red spider. If Xueqie wanted Xiao Zhongqi to die badly, then what ways would Xiao Zhongqi have out? There was a huge martial arts site in the east front yard. The arena was much bigger than in the martial arts academy. Even after the red spider was released, it was still able to move freely on the arena. The bottom of the arena was filled with people. After this huge movement, all the people in Lingyang College had come to see. That Xueqie wasn't a good person. He bullied the weak like Xuemeng, which led many people to hate him. While Xiao Zhongqi was a stubborn person who bullied others freely because of his background. So when the two people who were not liked by many had fought, it could be said that everyone was excited. They all thought it was dog biting a dog. The voice of people yelling, "Kill," increased. "Young miss, it is obvious the eldest young master isn't Xueqie's opponent. He'll lose," Dong Ling said in a low voice. Of course. Huang Beiyu faintly smiled. On the arena, Xiao Zhongqi wore silver armor and held a long white weapon. He usually looked cool and handsome, but now he has been swept away from the red spider's long legs and ended back with a couple of somersaults. He climbed back up battered and exhausted. There had been several wounds on his body, but the strength of a silver warrior wasn't bragged. If the spider didn't have the thunder as protection, it would have been at a disadvantage. To fight openly and maneuver covertly, 13, Xueqie stood on the red spider's back with a bright red outfit. He laughed loudly, "Small thief. Now you know how strong I am. You aren't that strong for someone who dared to steal from my prefecture, ah." Xiao Zhongqi spat the blood in his mouth at him. In his heart, he felt like he was wronged. "You dumbass, who appreciates the things in your prefecture. Humph. You're just reluctant to accept your mistake. If you don't hand the items back today, don't think about walking off the stage alive." Xueqie was completely aggravated, his eyes were murderous. "Brother, don't fight." In front of the arena came a cry from a young girl. Huang Beiyu raised her head to look. It was family Zhao's couple young Mrs./Masters. The person who was crying out loud right now was Xiao Rou. Concubine Qin was the mother to both Xiao Rou and Xiao Zhongqi. They were very close during childhood, and now that she saw Xiao Zhongqi was beaten to the point where he might die, she cried out loud. Xiao Yun, who was on the side, she jutted her lips. Seeing that Xiao Zhongqi, who was part of her family, was almost tortured to death, she naturally thought that she was losing faces. "Second sister, please save my brother." Xiao Rou cried and begged Xiao Yun. "What solution would I have?" Xiao Yun coldly brushed Xiao Rou's hand off. "Xueqie is a 4-star summoner and he has the rank 11 red spider. It's best if you let your brother pray for his life." The young Xiao Rou was stunned by such a cold and heartless face. She knew from before that her mother and concubine Xue didn't get along, but they were siblings still and were blood-related. But after such a huge event, she finally understood that blood relations don't count. Xiao Rou, who had a crying face, couldn't stand still even under the maid's help. Huang Beiyu, who stood a few steps away from the crowd, coldly sneered. Dong Ling softly sneered, "Had she came to beg young miss, there might be some help. It's such a funny joke how she went to beg Xiao Yun." Actually, there was nothing wrong with begging Xiao Yun. Although her sky snow cat wouldn't be able to combat against the red spider, however, saving Xiao Zhongqi isn't a hard task. However, if she did save him, her snow cat would be injured. This is why Xiao Yun didn't want to. Huang Beiyu explained calmly. These people from famous families only thought of their benefits first. There was a sudden scream from within the audience. They had only seen how Xiao Zhongqi's vitality had skyrocketed, forming a layer of vitality protection. It tried its best and hit the red spider's leg. Then he condensed all his qi on the weapon. That weapon was able to cut the red spider's leg in an instant. That red spider was completely irritated and Xueche's eyes were red. I'm going to kill you. The red spider's mouth had opened and rays of thunder formed inside. Then, it spat the thunderball out towards Xiao Zhongqi. Xiao Zhongqi saw this and knew that this wasn't good. As long as the thunder had touched him even a little, he would be bound to die. There wouldn't even be ashes left over. He immediately turned around and ran. The people at the bottom all held a gasp while Xiao Rou, who had seen this, fainted. To fight openly and maneuver covertly. 14. Inside the forest, there were 7 towers. The deeper someone walked in, the tower's scope was huger. Inside were the collections of all of Cardi mainland's ancient records. Of the 7 towers, only 5 were open to students. The 2 towers in the back were forbidden, so students couldn't enter. The 7 towers was one of Lingyang College's most spiritual places. It was ancient and quiet. Most of the time students were not allowed to yell. A few of teachers who had seen the battle on the arena had seen that Xiao Zhongqi had run inside, their eyebrows furrowed, and exclaimed seriously, "Don't go inside and cause troubles." But the noise in the arena was too big, so the teachers' voices were drowned out. "Thief, don't even try to escape." Xueche sneered. He ordered the red spider to chase him inside. The huge red spider, its 8 legs moved all together. The red spider spat more a beam of thunder. The battle quickly arrived in front of the 7 towers' brick wall. That beam of thunder had destroyed a couple trees in the 7 towers. Now that the red spider's thunder had come closer, the surrounding ground all started to turn yellow. The red spider opened its mouth and spat out beams of thunder which chased after Xiao Zhongqi. That Xiao Zhongqi quickly ran for his life. A few of the teachers' face didn't look good. A few of the advanced level summoners were about to summon their own spiritual beasts to intervene. But at this time, inside the quiet the spiritual 7 towers, it started to sway violently. It seemed like the ground had been smashed by something heavy. A few of the students who were weaker fell to the ground due to the shaking. The loud noise had quieted down immediately. That red spider continued to spat out beams of thunder, but after this shaking, it seemed to have remembered something. The huge body had stopped all of a sudden. The beam of the thunder that was bigger than before rang behind Xiao Zhongqi. It had almost caught up when a deep angry scream had come from deep inside the 7 towers. That scream had terrified the people, and everyone who had heard it involuntarily produced the idea of surrendering. That was the type of scream that only the absolute supremacy of the Lord could make. Huang Beiyu pulled on Dong Ling, who wasn't able to stand still and almost fell. She raised her head and trained her eyes in the deep forest's 7 towers. Through her vision, the dense forest suddenly trembled. From the top of the 7th tower, came a black dragon flying up. The huge dragon's body almost covered the entire college. The horns on the dragon were powerful and it revealed a cold atmosphere. Under its roar, the flame in the dragon's mouth rushed out, rolling in the direction of the red spider. The rank 11 red spider had already possessed spirituality. Coupled with the contract with human beings and its preliminary spiritual knowledge, once it saw such a powerful dragon, fear had already formed in its heart. It knew that it wouldn't be able to resist it. The red spider wanted to turn around and escape, but it was too late. The rolling flame had trapped it inside in an instant. Even Xueche, unfortunately, was trapped inside. Heartbreaking screams, the red spider and Xueche screamed together. That voice could numb someone's heart and make their soul tremble. The fire of punishment. The fire of punishment. No one knew who had yelled that. After that, everyone closed their mouths and stared at the red spider along with Shueqi, who was trapped inside the flames. It was more horrible than seeing Shueqi killed in one move. The strength of a silver warrior is shocking. The speed at which Xiao Zhongqi was running was really quick, but how could it be quicker than the speed of thunder? Seeing that it had almost caught up to Xiao Zhongqi, there was no way that Xiao Zhongqi was able to run from away the huge mass of thunder. He had already run off the arena and out of the martial arts site. He had climbed over a brick wall and ran into Lingyang College's most famous library, 7 Towers. The history of the 7 Towers was very long. It was a really huge forest surrounded by brick walls. The trees inside compared to the outside were much denser. Under the huge treetop, there would always be students studying. The Honorable Spirit had arrived. 1. The punishment flame is a mysterious legend from Lingyang College. Rumors said that students who had committed a crime would be punished using the punishment flame. This type of fierce flame won't genuinely injure their corporeal body. But as the raging flames burned one's body, it would absolutely bring them pain. This pain is even more painful than the fire from hell. But this punishment only existed in the legends from Lingyang College. No one had actually seen it. Honorable Spirit, please quell your anger. In the distance, an elderly man with a head full of white hair was riding on the spirit beast, the red-crowned crane. His grey robes fluttered in the wind. His was manner humble and he seemed to be an immortal figure. It's the principal who arrived. The moment they had seen the elderly man arrived, those people who had fallen onto the ground due to the shaking looked up to the old man as if they had seen their savior. The pressure from the dragon was already terrifying. When the punishment flame appeared, it made people's spirit can't help but shudder. The one being punished is someone else, but hearing that blood-curdling scream, everyone felt their scalp become numb and their teeth tremble. The old and gray-haired principal drove the crane and arrived above the red spider and Shueqi's head. Towards the distant big black dragon that is hovering around the 7th tower, the elderly man deeply bowed. He said clearly, Honorable Spirit, please quell your anger. He's just a young ignorant kid who doesn't know anything. He had offended the Honorable Spirit. I will definitely harshly punish him. Tsang He, your disciple had fallen to such a lowly state. An angry voice said. This voice had come from the big dragon in the distance. Everyone was shocked. That dragon actually opened its mouth and spoke. Only a spirit beast that had made a contract with a summoner would be able to freely communicate within the summoner's heart. Only spirit beasts and summoners who have a contract can communicate. Outsiders can't heart it. But that big dragon actually spoke. What rank is that spirit beast? Hearing the spirit beast talk, Principal Tsang he wasn't surprised. He simply just bowed deeper and said, it's this old man who didn't teach him properly. Honorable Spirit, please quell your anger. Principal Tsang he is the principal of Lingyang College. He is a 9-star summoner who possessed the wind element. In Nani country, he is a person of virtue and prestige. He has a unique authority in Nani country. Even compared to the Kardi mainland, Principal Tsang he still has an extraordinary status. No one knew how old he is. Every year he appeared with his hair is all white, his grey robes flutter about seemingly as if he hasn't aged each year. Nani country's royal family is extremely respectful to him. They had bestowed the title, Teacher of the State, to him. He is also the Crown Prince's teacher. When those heads of noble families see him, they would have to yield to him. This amazing elderly man, yet he still had to bow to the spirit beast and plea for leniency. It was really impossible for students at Lingyang College, who had worshipped Principal Tsang he like an immortal to be in disbelief. What is the background of the big dragon? No one had seen it appear in the past. But he could spat out the punishment flame. Even the principal had to call him Honorable Spirit. The many students felt that it was unimaginable, but no one dared to speak nor put up an imposing manner. Humph, the Honorable Spirit snorted lazily. Because of Tsang-He, this old man's face, the Honorable Spirit had withdrawn the punishment flame. The screaming stopped, the red spider's body suddenly crashed onto the ground. Its usual shiny red hard shell on its body had lost its luster. Its 8 legs struggled weakly for a few moments until it could no longer move. The red light flashed, the red spider couldn't maintain its current form. It had turned small, returning to Xueche's summoning world. And Xueche was still lying on the floor, he constantly was in the original Ross. The Honorable Spirit had arrived, too, while Xueche's whole body was down, his mouth had spat white foam, and his eyes rolled up. It seemed as though he can't hold on anymore. Thank you, Honorable Spirit. Principal Tsang he had respectfully thanked. He quickly jumped off from the red-crowned crane and hurried to check on Xueche's injuries. The huge body of the Honorable Spirit on the 7th tower slowly hovered down the tall tower and seemed as though it was going to go back. At this time, the black jade on Huang Beiyu's neck seemed to have felt some type of attraction. It had jumped like a heartbeat/pulse. She slightly furrowed her eyebrows. What happened? Why did she felt as though the beast without boundaries was really excited? Those who had seen that the Honorable Spirit had almost left, suddenly gasped. Huang Beiyu raised her head and saw the Honorable Spirit at the top of the tower. It had suddenly stopped moving down and its huge dragon head had moved around in a circle. It looked in the direction of the crowd. That huge dragon's eyes were enormous, so people weren't able to tell where it stared at. The people from the arena were all under the huge scary eyes deterrence. Those who didn't have a lot of courage had already fallen down the ground. Huang Beiyu slightly squinted her eyes. The Honorable Spirit looked at her. It wouldn't be wrong. The pair of eyes had looked at her due to the beast without boundaries movement. She coldly raised her eyes and met with the Honorable Spirit's eyes. Just because your eyes are huge, it doesn't mean that I have to be scared of you. What a joke. The Honorable Spirit slowly breathed in as though the wind had blown by. The jungle swayed due to the wind and the Honorable Spirit shifted his gaze away, slowly following the high tower spinning. Quickly, it had disappeared in everyone's vision. Huang Beiyu couldn't believe it had just left. The short second of face-to-face seemed to have come from her imagination. Honorable Spirit. What rank is that spiritual beast? Even the rank 11 red spider wanted to run away as soon as it saw it. It's really unimaginable awe. Even when the Crown Prince's purple flame unicorn and her Isolwan spirit bird was here, the red spider didn't seem that weak either. It wouldn't have run away after just one move. That Honorable Spirit can't actually be higher than the 5 spiritual beasts. If she could tame the Honorable Spirit for herself, then that would be best. Her heart had just flashed over this idea when Yan's voice had rung. Can't believe that old thing is still alive. Yan, you know him. Speaking of Honorable Spirit, Yan's voice wasn't filled with disdain anymore, but the atmosphere was heavy. Can't believe he had learned the 7th tower's punishment flame. Humph, his strength is much stronger than before. So actually the Honorable Spirit didn't originally have the punishment flame, instead, he had learned it. Huang Beiyu, based on the level of your Isolwan spirit bird and the Crown Prince's purple flame unicorn, in his face it seemed as though an infant had just started walking. In this world, probably only I can beat him. Yan proudly exclaimed with arrogance in his tone. He didn't put anyone in his eyes. Huang Beiyu sneered in her heart, you're saying all that just so I can let you out. Not happening. Huang Beiyu. If you had angered him, only I can save you. Yen angrily explained, you and I can help each other and we would be invincible against the world. Even if they met Guangyao Hall or Xioluo City, they would have no fear. Who told you I was going to anger him? I will make him surrender and become one of us. Huang Beiyu arrogantly said as she arrogantly smiled. Yen was silent for a second before he burst into laughter. Arrogant girl, ah. You don't even know your capabilities, ah. Do you know what beast rank the honorable spirit is? You dared to even think about taming him. The honorable spirit had arrived. 3. Huang Beiyu had a detailed mind. She noticed how Yen had said beast, not spiritual beast. She couldn't help but to raise her eyebrows and asked, is he not a spiritual beast? Humph, you're a bit smart. Yen coldly humphed. It was really rare for not to show off and talk immediately after rather than to remain quiet. Yen. Huang Beiyu waited for a while and got a little impatient. When did this thing become so slow? Yen didn't respond and he seemed to be lost in his thoughts. Young miss, elder master was carried out. He seemed to be injured severely. Dongling tugged on her clothes. Huang Beiyu raised her head and looked to see a couple of students had carried Xiao Zhongqi out. His silver armor was burned off a lot as well as his hair. It became messy. His body contained a couple of wounds as well as on his face. The handsomeness from the usual days was gone. He was carried to the empty ground under the stage and placed next to Xueqi. Xueqi has already fainted over, but Xiao Zhongqi's conscience was still awake. Bastard! Once he had saw Xueqi, Xiao Zhongqi wanted so badly to chop him into pieces. Principal Tsang He had raised his head. Tsang He's old eyes had contained a senior person's dignity and a feeling of pressure. Once Xiao Zhongqi had looked at him, he immediately became quiet and didn't dare to make any movements. I need to give Honorable Spirit an explanation of what happened today. When the wounds on the two of you are gone, go to Chanhui every for 4 hours and kneel there. If you guys still fight again, you are to be immediately expelled. After Principal Tsang He had explained, Xiao Zhongqi bowed and agreed. He didn't dare to deny. Xueqi was already unconscious, so Principal Tsang He had let Angguo Gong's people carried him back before he stood up. Xiao Zhongqi held in the pain from his wounds and asked politely, Principal Darren, that Honorable Spirit Darren is. In his heart he was grateful to the Honorable Spirit because if not for the Honorable Spirit's appearance, he would probably be burnt to ashes from the Red Spider's thunder. That powerful Honorable Spirit had led Xiao Zhongqi to be respectful of him. Honorable Spirit is our college's guardian godly beast. He doesn't like it when people disturb him, so in the 7 towers, no one is allowed to cause trouble. Do you hear me? Principal Tsang He warned harshly. This time he hadn't been able to stop in time. Thank goodness the Honorable Spirit had only used the punishment flame as a small punishment. If Honorable Spirit is really aggravated, what way out alive would this stupid boy have? Next time the whole Lingyang College might be punished. Yes, this student knows that he is wrong. Xiao Zhongqi humbly admitted his mistake, but in his heart he felt lucky that he wasn't the one that was being too arrogant. Otherwise, had he been burnt by the punishment flame, it would have seemed as though he would have dropped a layer of skin. The other students had all nodded their heads. What a funny joke. After they had saw the Honorable Spirit's punishment flame, who doesn't care about their life and dared to make the Honorable Spirit angry? Huang Beiyu stood in the back, and after she heard what Principal Tsang He had said, the expressionless face had slightly changed. Godly beast. She lowly mumbled. She couldn't held the shock. The 5 spiritual beasts were already at the top of the spiritual beasts. In Kardi mainland, they were considered the godly beast level of beasts. Unfortunately, they hadn't become the actual godly beasts. There was a legend about the godly beasts in Cardi mainland. It was said that in the endless distance, there were godly beasts that had appeared in the dangerous floating forest. Not only that, godly beasts would never appeared in a place where humans were. If the honorable spirit is a godly beast, why is it here at Lingyang College? The honorable spirit had arrived, for, humph, now you know. Arrogant girl, you still dared to tame him. Yan's voice rang again in her mind with cold ridicule. Godly beasts. The same as the existence of God. How strong must humans be in order to let the godly beast surrender under them? Huang Bei Yu bit her lip. A couple of seconds later, she suddenly tilted the corner of her mouth and coldly smiled. That smile was arrogant, confident, and unexcelled. I wasn't thinking that much about it before, now I do. Her heart itched and so did her hands. To become the most powerful summoner, then they needed the most godly beasts. Ha 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 dash, Yan laughed loudly, Huang Bei Yu, I admire your personality. But if people become too arrogant, then they will have to pay a price for it. I am not scared of any prices. I just needed to be strong enough so that there's nothing that I'm afraid of. The young girl's voice was determined. The water in the forbidden black water prison had swayed a couple seconds. Yen looked at the swaying water. The light in its huge eyes, like the water, couldn't quiet down after a long time. After the students all returned back for class, Principal Tsang He and a few experienced teachers walked towards the college. Principal, how come this time the Honorable Spirit Darren would appear? A few of the teachers didn't understand. In the past, even if any huge events had occurred, the Honorable Spirit would never appear. This time, it was only two students who didn't know any better who had gone on the arena to battle against each other. Even though they had barged into the 7th tower and that was inappropriate, but it shouldn't have startled Honorable Spirit to come out and end it himself. Principal Tsang He touched his long white beard and said, I didn't think that Honorable Spirit would have made an appearance. Honorable Spirit had stayed in the 7th tower for over 10 years and never revealed himself. This time, it seemed to be a little suspicious. No matter what, since Honorable Spirit had shown himself, everyone should be careful these days. Take care of your own yard students and make sure they don't cause trouble. Yes, we'll all be careful. After the Honorable Spirit had punished Xueche with the punishment flame, he had a fever and had been unconscious for a couple of days. Anguo Gong had already lost his favorite daughter and the treasure of the prefecture. Now even his most skillful son was punished by the Honorable Spirit in Lingyang College. He was depressed and worried that he didn't dare to have any movements. The Shao family, due to the chain of events, were relieved for a while. Otherwise, with the pressure by Anguo Gong's prefecture to hand over the Lotus Flame Furnace and Water Pearl, then they might really be driven to desperate actions. In this period of time, concubine Qin had gone over to Prime Minister's prefecture often. Her sister had married Ping Bei Ho and gave birth to a son and daughter. The daughter recently was bestowed the title, Princess Hong Lian. It was heard that she is the chosen wife of the third prince. Princess Hong Lian was older than Xiao Rou by a couple of years, so they didn't end up playing with each other. But she knew Xiao Ling from Lingyang College. Lately, the wife of Ping Bei Ho had taken Princess Hong Lian back to the capital city. Concubine Qin wanted to please her sister, so she decided to live in the Prime Minister's prefecture and told Xiao Rou to interact with Princess Hong Lian more often to gain a positive perspective. Even though concubine Qin was a concubine, but living in Princess Zhang's prefecture, she will have power and money. She had lived happily and not even worse than the actual wife of families. Due to this, the status of her mother in Prime Minister's prefecture had raised a little. The wife of Ping Bei Ho was also kind and caring towards concubine Qin now, unlike in the past how she wasn't satisfied with how beautiful her sister was. This day was Princess Honglian's birthday. The Prime Minister was fond of the granddaughter who would soon become the wife of the third prince. Therefore, he had set up a large banquet within his prefecture and invited families that were close in relationship with the Prime Minister's prefecture. The honorable spirit had arrived. 5. These 2 years due to concubine Qin, Princess Zhang's prefecture was close with Prime Minister's prefecture, so naturally, they would also join the banquet. Huang Beiyu, at first, planned not to go. However, lately concubine Qin had been trying to pull her to her side due to Xiao Zhongqi's situation, and plus she didn't have much to do. In the end, she decided to check it out. In the royal court, Beiping Ho's prefecture also had some power. Besides, the mother of the third prince was loved and the prime minister's prefecture was also counted as a huge family in Nanny country. Therefore for Princess Hongling's birthday, those influential officials in the imperial capital had given them face and came. In the backyard, the young misses and masters from different families had gathered together to enjoy the view, toured the lake, and recited poetry. The wives had also come to enjoy the view and chat about their lives. Huang Beiyu didn't recognize anyone, so she and Dong Ling had sat in the pavilion and drank tea. A place not far from here, a group of young misses and masters surrounded the third prince and Meng Hongling, Princess Hongling, to chat. That third prince was handsome. Meng Hongling was also beautiful and behaved generously. Although she was still young, she had revealed her charm and grace. The two of them stood together was like an ideal couple and a match made from heaven. Xiao Yun didn't gather around with the group of people. Instead, she stood with the daughters of concubines that weren't favored and exclaimed, "Those that were born from the first wife were born to be lucky. Sister Yun, you're pretty good too. Even though you're the daughter of a concubine, you're better than the daughter of the first wife in Princess Zhang's prefecture. Unlike us, what we want we don't get. So poor." No one knew which young miss had replied. Xiao Yun was the daughter of a concubine in Princess Zhang's prefecture. However, she was treated differently than other prefectures. She is not only one of the genius in the imperial capital, but she is also favored at home. Not too long ago she was put into an arranged marriage with An Guogong's son. These are all things that daughters of concubines would never dare to dream of. If Sister Yun's mother becomes the first wife, then sister will be the first lady. Unfortunately, if Princess Hongling became the third prince's wife, Princess Zhang's prefecture's concubine Qin might become the first lady instead due to this layer of relationship. Xiao Yun's eyes flashed and suddenly laughed coldly. It won't be that easy. Her heart suddenly flashed over a great idea, a plan to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Xiao Yun slowly walked over to where Princess Hongling was and saw Xiao Rou, who smiled sweetly at Princess Hongling. Her eyebrows wrinkled and pulled Xiao Rou over to say, "Fourth sister, concubine taught you many times. When girls are outside, they need to smile reservedly. Especially when men are also present. Don't let other people think that our prefecture's young misses don't know anything." Xiao Yun had said this in a low voice, but a couple of young misses who had stood close heard it. They all looked at each other, confused. Xiao Rou was still her cousin, so when Princess Hongling heard about what Xiao Yun had said, she frowned and exclaimed, "Young Miss Xiao Yun, what do you mean by that?" Xiao Yun was also embarrassed. After all, she is still a young girl who hadn't married. Plus on the side stood a couple of young masters from big families. The third prince was also present. She felt embarrassed to say, so she lowered her voice. In the past concubine Qin was young and didn't understand a lot of things, so she made mistakes. I'm just scared that fourth sister might follow in her footsteps, so I remind her often to know her etiquette and to be graceful. Not to overstep the line. After Xiao Yun's statement, everyone had understood. Everyone that had heard, who didn't understand. In the past, the Prime Minister's prefecture had a young miss who was the daughter of a concubine. She wasn't well known, but one time at the palace banquet, she openly seduced the emperor's brother-in-law and was caught in public, which made the emperor and empress dowager furious. The honorable spirit had arrived. 6. Because of her morality and conduct, the Prime Minister had suffered an extraordinary shame and humiliation. His prefecture couldn't allow her to stay anymore. Fortunately, Princess Zhang was virtuous and gentle. She made Xiao Yuanqing take her into Princess Zhang's prefecture to live and raised her status to become a concubine. This matter was spread across the imperial city that year. The Prime Minister even made it clear that he had no relations to this daughter, concubine Qin. He didn't allow her to come back to the Prime Minister's prefecture at all. Even though this matter had passed for so many years, but in the imperial city, those upper-class ladies are bored and like to gossip. What's more is that concubine Qin is a woman of high profile. Ever since Princess Zhang had died, it seemed like she's the one managing the family. This made other people angry because concubine Qin was able to live even better than other prefectures' first wife. She is liberal with money as if she's dripping with gold and silver. The main wife from other prefectures dislikes her. The concubines from other prefectures hated her to the point where they're fuming with rage between gritted teeth. How can they not gossip about her? The thing she had done that year, no one talked about it publicly. But privately, everyone has a tacit mutual understanding. After hearing Xiao Yun's words, the expressions on the young masters and misses were brilliant. They had looked at Xiao Rou, didn't say anything else and left. The expression on the third prince wasn't pleasant. Before, Princess Hongling and Xiao Rou were talking and laughing. It seemed like they are also good friends. People will interact and be with the same kind of people. That's called birds of a feather flock together. The third prince, with a soft cough, left. In the blink of an eye, the people that had surrounded Princess Hongling had dispersed. The only remaining ones were the two sisters from the Xiao family. She, Xiao Rou, is anxious and angry, but she can't show it. Xiao Yun said in a low voice, "Fourth little sister, you shouldn't have laughed like that with the third prince." In her tone, it was slightly blaming Xiao Rou. Which made Xiao Rou's face become red. "Second older sister, I didn't." "If you say you didn't then. Let's not talk about this matter anymore. In the future, when you leave the prefecture, you have to remember that you're an unmarried maiden. You have to be reserved at all times." Xiao Yun seemed to be very lenient, like a real older sister. Xiao Rou was so angry that her tears swirled around the corners of her eye. She looked at Princess Hongling like she was wronged and said, "Cousin, what are you crying for?" "Because of your crying, today's good day is ruined," Princess Hongling coldly said. Concubine Qin's matter, she had heard about it before at the ladies' chamber. When she, concubine Qin, was young, her conduct was improper and offended the public morals. Even the Empress Dowager and the Emperor had reprimanded her. She made the Prime Minister's prefecture lost all their face. Although these 2 years she knew her place, rivers and mountains are easy to change, a person's character is much harder. The daughter she had taught isn't a good seed. She once again recalled the third prince's gaze. Indeed, his gaze had stayed on Xiao Rou many times. This Xiao Rou really isn't some good stuff. In the future, it's best if you listen to your second older sister's words. Your mother had made Prime Minister's prefecture lose face. Now you want to make Princess Zhang's prefecture lose face. Princess Hongling said without a trace of politeness. She glared at Xiao Rou, who was crying and extremely angrily left. Xiao Yun let out a proud smile towards herself. With this, it'll be difficult for concubine Qin to conduct herself with dignity in the Prime Minister's prefecture. The old matter from the past, once it's brought up, they would lose face. It would make Princess Hongling's status drop somewhat in the third prince's heart. Second older sister, how can you say such things? And you said it in front of so many people. Xiao Rou said after there was no one else. She also put away her soft and weak expression. After today's matter has spread around, her mother will be talked about in the various prefectures. Even her reputation is ruined. Xiao Yun coldly glared at her. She coldly laughed, her tone is full of sarcasm. The honorable spirit had arrived. 7. Is what I'm saying not correct? Even if I hadn't said out loud what your mother had done in the past, everyone had known it anyways. Why hide it? Plus, did you not smile purposefully at the third prince? I did not. Xiao Rou was stabbed at where it had hurt the most. The child inside her couldn't help but scream, "You've always been jealous of me because I look more beautiful. My personality is also better than yours. Everyone likes me, that's why you're trying to slander me." After she had shouted that, the noble ladies and young masters that were nearby all turned around and stared at her. Xiao Rou's face slowly became red while Xiao Yun smiled as she shook her head. Not saying anything more, she turned around and left. Such a dumb girl. She's brave but she has no brains, just like concubine Qin. All they knew was to chat and chat, now they know they were losing faces. Huang Beiyu laughed for so long in the pavilion. Like mother like daughter. Concubine Shui and Xiao Yun belonged to the group of people that liked to play tricks. On the other hand, concubine Qin, Xiao Zhongqi, and Xiao Rou were the types of people who get angry easily and like to show off. When the yin and yang meet, things were bound to be interesting. Xiao Rou had been scolded randomly, and when she walked over to the pavilion, she saw Huang Beiyu, who sat there faintly smiling. She had held a stomach of anger. If she wasn't the daughter of a concubine, who dared to ridicule her? Dong Ling was a clever girl. She looked at Huang Beiyu and walked up to say, "Fourth young miss, why are you so mad?" Even though the second young miss can be unreasonable, but she is still the daughter of someone who came from a village. Fourth young miss, don't be mad over these people. Otherwise, you would be dropping your status down to them. After that was said, Xiao Rou felt a little better in her heart. Her perspective of Huang Beiyu was better. She sat down and took the cup of tea delivered by Dong Ling. She faintly exclaimed, "Third older sister, you had seen her actions too. What benefit does it give to Princess Zhang's prefecture for ruining my mother's reputation?" Well, Princess Zhang's prefecture isn't that big of a deal, just that sister had been wronged. Huang Beiyu smiled faintly. Dong Ling immediately added on, "The fourth young miss is much more beautiful than the second young miss. You have a talent for martial arts. Our nanny country honors martial arts the most. The accomplishments that the fourth young miss makes won't be any less than the second young miss. As long as the reputation isn't bad, in the future for the second lady's marriage, Our Lady will go ask the emperor. The marriage won't be any worse than Princess Hongling." Xiao Rou's heart jumped harshly. Not any worse than Princess Hongling's, then she also has hope to become a wife for a prince. Third sister, I'm the daughter of a concubine. How would I dare to think that much? Xiao Rou was impulsive. Her face had revealed how excited she was even though she had worded it humbly. What's wrong with being the daughter of a concubine? Nanny country always respected the strongest. Fourth sister, do you not believe in your strength? Huang Beiyu calmly stated. Xiao Rou softly bit on her lips and thought in her heart, if her mother hadn't done that shameful thing in the past, then based on the Prime Minister's prefecture's influence and her strength, even if she was the daughter of a concubine, she would stand out among the others. Dong Ling saw her, Xiao rose, thoughts and looked towards Huang Beiyu. Dong Ling stated, "Fourth young miss, you had cried earlier. Your face is dirty. How about this maid goes with you to wash your face?" These aristocratic young misses all value their appearances greatly. Once she had heard that her face was dirty, she immediately became worried and nodded her head quickly. "Third sister, excuse me for a second." "Go ahead." Huang Beiyu peered at Dong Ling. Dong Ling understood and knew what she had to do. The Honorable Spirit had arrived. 8. Huang Beiyu wasn't familiar with any family's young misses/masters, so after Dong Ling had left, she was a little bored. She felt bored sitting in the pavilion, so she stood up and decided to walk around. The Prime Minister's prefecture was huge. The scope wasn't any worse than Princess Zhang's prefecture. The floors were stacked and there were foggy clouds outside the windows. There was flowing water and fake mountains. The scenery was peculiar. Huang Beiyu disliked walking in places where there were many people. She enjoyed the peace and would move to quiet places once many people were gathered in one place. Her footsteps were like a cat, making no sounds at all. After she had walked for a while, she had no idea where she was. She wanted to follow the path back when she heard a low voice. "Prime Minister Qi, the third prince isn't up to our expectations. This might not benefit our big goal. The third prince has a weak personality. He will not be able to help us reach our big goal." Huang Beiyu sneakily hid behind a fake rock and heard the people discussing. "Well, what solutions do we have today? The third prince is from a noble birth. Besides him, whose family can be compared with Empress Yun?" A dignified voice rang. Huang Beiyu recognized the voice. It was the royal court's Prime Minister Qi. Earlier he had walked over and talked with Princess Hongling, so she remembered the voice. "Prime Minister Qi, there is still the first prince by the imperial concubine. Prince Jing." A person sneered. "Hu Lao, the older you get the more confused you are. Imperial concubine is the young sister of Ongwa Gong. Prince Jing is also on Ongwa Gong's side. Cooperating with that old fox, Ongwa Gong, is like seeking the skin of a tiger." Prime Minister Qi sighed. "Of all the princes, only the third prince gave us a sense of hope." Hu Lao added, "The crown prince is loved by its people. To ruin him, the first step is to let his people be disappointed in him. But this, how is it that easy? Humph. If you wanted to condemn someone, don't worry about the pretext. As long as you want to do something, there is nothing that can't be done. Enough, this plan still needs to be considered at length. There are still many noble guests in the front. Let's go over there now." Prime Minister Qi exclaimed seriously. The footsteps rang and Huang Beiyu quickly flashed over to the other side of the fake rock. Her movements were like a cat, not letting anyone notice. Only when Prime Minister Qi and the other had walked far away, did she slowly came out. So it actually turns out that the seemingly peaceful Nanny country actually have so many disagreements and arguments in the dark. The Crown Prince Zhanye loved his people and the entire Nanny country respected him. Yet there are still some people who want to bring him down. Prince Jing, who had some relationship with Ongwa Gong, and that third prince who, from the first look, wouldn't be up to anyone's expectations. These two people couldn't even be added together to be one of Zhanye's finger. Ongwa Gong had offended her. Obviously, she isn't going to let his dream come true. About this Prime Minister Qi, he had taken care of someone like concubine Qin and killed Huang Beiyu. She wasn't going to let him reach his goal either. Her mouth tilted up and she retraced her steps. At this birthday banquet, Huang Beiyu had no interest in enjoying the view, letting the fireworks out, or listen to the opera. She had explained how her body wasn't feeling well and left with Dongling. On the road, Dongling held in her laugh about what happened today in Prime Minister's prefecture. "Young miss, you didn't know." Due to concubine Qin's relationship, the fourth young miss was ignored by young misses from different families. This time after what happened with Xiao Yun, everyone looks down upon her in public now. Huang Beiyu sneered. The evil fruit that concubine Qin had planted had landed on Xiao Rou's body in the form of retribution. Right. In the past, both mother and daughter had bullied the young miss often. Dongling angrily exclaimed. The honorable spirit had arrived. 9. Huang Beiyu knew in her heart that the last time she had knelt in the ancestral hall was because of Xiao Rou, who often came to find her problems. She was bullied badly. All Huang Beiyu had said was that she was the daughter of the first wife of Princess Zhang's prefecture. Once concubine Qin had found out, she had purposefully made her kneel in front of Princess Zhang's memorial tablet, which had led her to lose her life. With such a great layer of hatred, she obviously wouldn't let concubine Qin and Xiao Rou go that easily. "Young miss, this time, we need to let concubine Qi and the others suffer greatly. Don't worry." Huang Beiyu smiled calmly. She raised her head and saw the tall 7 towers that were about to reach the clouds in Lingyang College. Her heart had suddenly jumped. She hadn't made sense with a lot of things about the honorable spirit. "Dongling, you can go back first. I have something to do." "I know. Young miss, be careful." Dongling nodded her head. Lately, Huang Beiyu had left and gone out more frequently. Dongling was already confident in Huang Beiyu's strength. She never looked at her like the weak young miss she was before. After she had separated from Dongling, Huang Beiyu took out the black cloak and covered herself. Her figure had quickly blended in with the dark. "If you go offend the honorable spirit, be careful of your life," Yen lazily warned her. "You're scared." "I can't possibly be afraid of him. But because you are my sealed vessel. If you die, then I will die also." "Humph, don't worry. I won't die." After she said that, she decided not to pay attention to Yen anymore. She quickly shifted through the dark night and ended up outside of the Lingyang College. Outside of this imperial country's biggest college, the road would all have lanterns and the light is bright. The majestic black and white archway was set in the night, and the faint glow of energy exudes a powerful deterrent force. If she had barged in, it will immediately startle the school's officials. Not a good idea. These days in school, she had slowly understood some things. Over at the 7 Towers, because it had the protection of honorable spirit and the legend of the powerful punishment flame, even those with powerful strength didn't dare to barge in. Therefore, in the whole Lingyang College, the place with the weakest defense is the 7 Towers. Huang Beiyu quietly walked over to the back of the 7 Towers. The vast forests of the 7 Towers in this side were not surrounded by walls, so she could enter directly from the back hills. However, the dangers here aren't any less than the misty forest. It was heard that there were also really powerful spirit beasts nearby, as well as poisonous plants that also attack people. Therefore, rarely anyone came near. With the ice spirit bird's powerful pressure, naturally, no spirit beasts would dare come and challenge. With the dark night and the super powerful movement skills, she had arrived under the 7th tower within half an hour. From far away, the 7th tower had reached the clouds. However, when looking closely, it isn't as huge. The entire base of the 7th tower was as big as a football field. It rose from the ground and the top can't be seen. It can be imagined how huge the Honorable Spirit was when hovering over this giant tower. She walked around the 7th tower in a circle and hadn't even noticed the entrance. This tower seemed to be closed all the way. Did she have to fly up there? She remembered that there was a window on the top of the 7th tower. It's just that she didn't know whether the window had a chi restriction. Go up there and take a look. Ice! She lowly summoned. The surrounding temperature had immediately dropped and the shiny iced-colored water flashed. The ice spirit bird's huge body had appeared. Huang Bei-yu jumped on her back and lowly ordered, slowly fly around the tower. The Honorable Spirit had arrived. 10. The Isolon spirit bird had heard that and slowly flapped its wings, which brought on a small wind. The tree branches nearby had swayed a little bit when they had flown up. It slowly flew up, going around the tower. After it had hovered for a while, Huang Bei-yu noticed that one of the windows was open. The slight flow of qi indicated there was a qi restriction, but it had seemed to be destroyed by something already. She softly jumped up and grabbed onto the windowsill. She reached in and had just placed her head in when there was a sudden gust of wind. Huang Bei-yu reacted quickly and moved her body back, flexibly jumping on the Isolon spirit bird's back. At this time, the Isolon spirit bird had opened its mouth and shot an ice arrow in. However, the moment when the ice arrow had shot in, a hot purple flame had also poured out. It was fierce and powerful. The huge wings of the Isolon spirit bird had flapped and flew upwards. The purple flame spurted from under the feet and disappeared quickly in the night. Purple flaming unicorn. Huang Bei-yu lowly stated. A cold young man appeared on the windowsill and his black robe fluttered. He held a sword with a burning purple flame and his indifferent eyes looked up. When he saw her, he was a little surprised. Shi Tian Darren. He coldly spoke, his voice held little to no emotions. Crown Prince. The Isolon spirit bird slowly descended and let her step on the back to meet the Crown Prince Zhang Ye's gaze. When the two people's gaze landed on each other in the dark night, they had understood why they were here. The appearance of the Honorable Spirit had aroused many people's curiosity. Everyone wanted to see what the godly beast looked like in the legends. Huang Bei-yu looked at the windowsill's flowing qi restriction. She thought it was strange how this window was open. Now she understood. It was because someone had come in earlier than her. There is a hint of fire in the qi, and it seemed that the vitality of the fire attribute is more likely to break the prohibition. Since we had already come, the Crown Prince won't tell me to go back to my prefecture, right? Huang Bei-yu held on to her both hands, her tone neither cold or hot. The Crown Prince Zhang Yi seemed to misunderstood her, but she didn't plan on explaining. For someone like her, she disliked talking too much. Whenever she is doing something, she liked to use her actions to show. Zhang Yi looked at her and knew that he is unable to stop her from going inside the 7th tower. If two super spiritual beasts were to fight right now, it would definitely cause a huge movement. He didn't say anything but jumped into the tower. It seemed as though he had agreed to let her in. Huang Bei-yu pulled on the cloak and also jumped in. She let the Isolon spirit bird shrink to a small size before following her. Inside the tower, it was completely black. Huang Bei-yu took out a luminous stone from the space ring. She had stared as Zhang Yi had used the purple flaming unicorn to make a small fire torch. She couldn't help but look at her luminous stone. Compared with the purple flame, her luminous stone was obviously more unpresentable. If only the Isolon spirit bird could also glow. With the light, the wide space in the tower was slowly illuminated and exposed to them. On the four sides of the walls contained numerous grids. It was all locked by restriction. Inside the grids were probably valuable records and information. She didn't know whether inside the seventh tower if there was information containing the beast without boundaries. She had made a decision in her heart that next time when she sneaked in again, she would look through the information for clues. Even a little bit of clue would be good. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.